Hi, everyone. This meeting is called to order in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, and notice of this meeting was sent to the Home News Tribune, the Star Ledger, and the Highland Park Planet on June 6, 2020, and was posted on the Borough Bulletin Board and website, the website at www.hpboro.com. And on the bulletin board at Borough Hall, which is at 221 South Fifth Avenue, Highland Park, New Jersey, on May 15th, 2020, and has remained continuously posted as required by law. Josh, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance today, please? And Elsie, do you have a flag? Oh, yes. Okay, thank you.
Sorry, I think Phil is in the attendance, in the attendees.
We didn't think he was joining the meeting. He had asked for.
I think you're right, Stephanie.
He needs to use this
to come.
I will try to.
So can we handle that with roll call?
Okay.
If he's signed in as Phil George?
Yes, so I can promote him to be a panelist if we'd like, if he's prepared for that.
He's there. He's there.
Now we have to make sure this is the genuine Phil George.
Phil, are you there? Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
There we go.
Okay. All right.
Thank you all.
Josh, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all, we hope.
Thank you. Roll call, please. Joan?
Maybe have a mute situation going on?
No.
Oh.
Mayor Brill Mittler,
Here.
Councilman Fine,
Here.
Councilwoman Foster-Dublin,
Here.
Councilman George,
Here.
Councilman Hale,
Here.
Councilwoman Kim Chohan,
Here.
Borough Attorney. Oh, she's muted.
Lucy.
He's here.
Yeah.
Borough Administrator.
Here.
Okay.
Okay, thank you all. This is our 6th annual virtual council meeting, and a recording of the proceedings will be made available via HPTV following the meeting. At this point, I'm going to ask for council reports. I'm going to go in order of how you appear on my monitor. And so, Councilman Hale, would you start us off, please?
Sure, thank you. As many of you know, the governor is released a number of restrictions. Most importantly, or most pressing right now, is that as of June 15th, there will be allowed outdoor dining. And so I wanted to make sure that everyone knows that Highland Park we've been working for the last several weeks on some strategies to allow for greater outdoor dining once the restriction is lifted on the 15th. And so there's going to be 2 ways that outdoor dining will be allowed. The first one is on South 3rd Avenue. And if I could just real quick, I will share my screen. If you can see everyone, this is South 3rd Avenue, where Penstock Coffee is, Judaica Gallery. The plan is that we're going to close off that street and put picnic tables out on the street to allow people to have dining. The picnic tables will be separated by a appropriate distance. There'll be materials for cleaning the tables. Any restaurant in Highland Park can deliver there, or people would be able to pick up their food and bring it out to the town table that we're calling it. So again, this is South 3rd Avenue. It'll be blocked off from Raritan back to the municipal lot. As many of you know, that we've also started the shared streets. So this is a nice end to the shared street on 3rd. So people walking down 3rd can move for a table at the town table on South 3rd. So there's that picture. I'll stop sharing. The other thing to also announce is that we've come up with a plan as well to allow for both restaurants to provide more sidewalk dining. So as you may or may not know, we have normally have a permit process if people want to put out their cafe tables. We are streamlining that process. So any business, any restaurant, the permits are free of charge. We'll deliver them in the next couple days to restaurants in Highland Park who want to set up outdoor dining. And then in conjunction with Main Street Highland Park, they have bought a number of tables that are available to Highland Park restaurants who want to set up outdoor dining. So if you are a Highland Park restaurant and you need tables, I would suggest starting with contacting Main Street Highland Park to be able to go and get some of the tables so that there'll be dining out in front. Again, it's a small sort of, there's no fee for the permit. It's free for everyone. It's a simple one-page form that we'll need, and we'll drop it by all of the restaurants in the next couple days. In addition, we've also relaxed restrictions on allowing retail merchants to, again, also display outside of their shops. The primary request, the primary hope for this is that there'll still be a need for about 4 feet of space on the sidewalks for both restaurants and dining to allow people to get by. But we're also encouraging all of the Highland Park retail stores that can to set up displays outside so that more people can come by and take a look at them. You know, this is, as has been said, this is new for everybody. We think we have worked out a plan that will encourage people to get outside, encourage restaurants to have a place where people can grab their food and come and eat. We're asking the public to sort of look at the signs that will be up and make sure that you're observing all of the public health questions and all of the public health restrictions that are up, and to keep it as safe as possible. But we think that this will be a step in the right direction, and we're hoping that as we'll see how demand goes. There might be other places that we can do this as well. But again, the idea is to sort of start the slow and safe and steady process of coming out of some of the restrictions. So again, all of this will be up on the Borough website. All of the information will be available there, and also at Main Street Highland Park. And I say every week, I think, but I just want to reiterate again how much Highland Park, Main Street Highland Park, and Rebecca Hirsch and Javier have done to make this happen. So they've been really great partners in working out a lot of these details. So we're hopeful this is going to be a good thing for Highland Park, and go to the restaurants and go to the stores and go to the town table. I guess that's all I have, Mayor.
That's great news. Thank you, Councilman. All right, next up is on my screen is Stephanie Kim Chohan.
I just have one announcement regarding the food pantry to thank everyone who has donated, whether it was gifts, gift cards, or checks. To date, they've received over $26,000. So we really, really appreciate that. And received 20 plus additional volunteers that had signed up since the beginning of COVID, which was mid-March. So we really appreciate that, and thank you, thank you, thank you. And I'm gonna hold my report. I know we have a lot of attendees tonight, and thank you. That's my report there.
Okay, thank you. Councilwoman Foster-Dublin, do you have a report?
Yes, Mayor. Couple of things. First of all, I want to thank everyone in town and every one of my council members who came out last week and marched in the Black Lives Matter movement. And I am so happy to see that our voices are being heard, we're being taken seriously, and that my white brothers and sisters and others are putting real effort into making a change, not only making a change here in town, but making a change on a national stage, on the global stage, where our rights will be, our life will matter and our rights will be honored, and people are looking forward to making real changes, real substantive changes as it pertains to how we're treated and the unjust treatment of especially our young Black men. And that's a forward movement, and there's a groundswell. And I want to encourage everyone to keep it going, because we need to keep it going, because this is the only way we're going to see real changes that happens, and not just empty legislation, but real changes, because part of the change has to do with each and every one of us, you know. Even here in town, there's some neighborhoods that you go to and you're young Black man, and you know, as people are calling, and they're calling the police department saying, I see someone that doesn't look like they belong in my neighborhood. And that phone call comes in about not belonging and puts the police department in an awkward situation, because now they have to go respond to the call. And you know, it just puts the person in a bad situation, it puts the officer in a bad situation. And we all have some onuses as to why are we calling the police? Because you see someone that doesn't look like they belong in your neighborhood. Like, what is that supposed to mean? And so I would encourage each and every one of us to take a look at ourselves and to take a serious look at ourselves, and don't call the police department because you see somebody walking down the street that you don't know, some Black person walking down the street, or some Black young man walking down the street that you don't know, and make that phone call. And they have to respond because you make the phone call. And it puts the police, it puts that Black person, it puts everybody in a bad situation. So I think that's a part of the awareness too. You know, when we say Black Lives Matters, that's a part of the awareness that we all need to have on that. But again, I thank everyone for coming out and supporting. This past Sunday, there was a canvas display where they were painting and in support of Black Lives Matters. I thank those people too. And I thank each and every one who wants to see an end to this systemic racism that we've been dealt with ever since that we were brought here against our will to these shores. And it's time that it stopped, and it's time for changes to happen. And we got to continue to work constantly for change. And I implore you to work not just here in Highland Park, but to continue to work and continue to fight everywhere. Okay, well, with that said, we all went out in March and protested last week. I just made an appointment today with Middlesex County testing facility. There's a testing facility at Redshaw Elementary School in New Brunswick. It's on Livingston Avenue. This testing facility number is 732-745-3100. I would encourage anyone who have participated in the march, and I'm quite sure we're going to march some more, to just go and get your COVID tested there. Normally they say you have to wait 5 to 7 days after you've been out, and I know I've participated in 3 marches, so definitely going to get myself checked out. But it was well worth the cause. The cause for fighting for our liberty and our justice is well worth it. with that said, the police community forum, we haven't had one in a while, and we promised that we would do them quarterly. With COVID and our world coming to a standstill, that has changed. But I'm happy to announce that on June 25th, we will be having our virtual community police community forum. So that's June 25th, 7 p.m. That information will be posted on the website, the Borough website, the police department website, and we'll go out on Facebook as well so we can gear up for a community forum. And I'm quite sure with everything that's going on in the world, we'll have a lot to talk about and hopefully get to some good, healthy places for us all. Another one that we have seen an uptick on is Asian life. Asian life matters too. We have seen an uptick since COVID of Asian people being attacked in our states and everywhere else. So today I received something from the Attorney General's office that on June 20th, Saturday, June 20th, 11 a.m. to 12:15, there will be a virtual session with the AG. I will have that posted on our website and our Facebook pages so we can share it with our Asian brothers and sisters, because, you know, this madness and this insanity has got to stop once and for all. So Asian community virtual meeting is going to be on June 20th. There's one more, but I'm going to say the deer. Terry's going to tell you all about the deer, what we're doing with them, so I'll save that. And then last but not least, this is Caribbean Heritage Month. And to all my Caribbean brothers and sisters out there, happy Caribbean Heritage Month. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. All right, Councilman Fine, do you have a report?
I do not have a report tonight, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Council President Phil George, do you have a report? Phil, you have to unmute yourself.
There we go.
Okay.
I'll be brief for two reasons. One, I just had some surgery today and the anesthesia is wearing off. And two, we do have a lot of business that I suspect to cover tonight. But thanks to the efforts of Main Street, the police department, administration, DPW, safe walking and cycling, and complete streets, in fairly record time, we have the street closures for safe walking and cycling, as Councilman Hale said, in coordination with the town table. It's a great project. I was out on all of them this weekend. Everybody was enjoying the beautiful weather and just strolling and walking. But just note that DPW is considering bringing to administration possibly reinstituting the bulk trash pickup for the end of July, which had to be canceled. Hopefully we have the details on that at the next meeting. I note one of my projects, my ongoing projects and goals, we really have done a great job of meeting. We have the 2 electric vehicles on the agenda. We got the grant for the 2 charging stations, and tonight we have the resolution to apply for 2 additional charging stations to be used for the public. I'm hoping we get those, and we keep moving forward and trying to catch up with some of our municipal brethren that are ahead of us, but also have a lot more money to do it. Just a final note on temporary inconvenience, permanent improvement. PSE&G will be resuming their gas repairs. So watch out for the street closures, try to avoid the crews and give them space. And also the South Adelaide project and the clever resources of our borough administrator. We did manage to find enough to actually finish the road and not leave the end of it in the terrible shape that it's in. So all of Adelaide will be done. And thank you very much, Terry. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, Borough Administrator, do you have a report?
Just a couple items. Elsie teed up the deer management discussion at long last. We've scheduled our public forum. It will be a virtual public forum set up similar to this, where we've invited the Division of Fish and Wildlife representatives to both present kind of the biology, kind of the what works and what doesn't from their perspective, as well as some recommendations for the borough to chew on. And it will be an opportunity to listen to the experts, but also we'll have opportunity for asking them questions and giving perspective and comment. So that date is June 30th, Tuesday, June 30th at 7 p.m. It'll be, following this meeting, we're going to put up the information on the borough calendar. We'll get it out on all the usual formats. So if that's a topic you've been chomping at the bit to discuss, now's your chance to listen. And it is a very informative presentation from the Division of Fish and Wildlife. It's to kind of the practical realities of deer management. And we've had this very helpful kind of regional look that we'll be talking about as well. We will share the report that was done on the drone survey that kind of talks about how many deer, at least that we appear to have. And that will be made available on the website as well, so that you have a chance to read that before the meeting and ask your questions. So we're very excited to finally bring that to everybody. I wanted to just echo both Councilman George and Hale's pointing out of the shared streets that rolled out. One of the challenges we realized is we didn't have quite as many barrels as we thought we had. So if you saw a barrel and then it went away, it got deployed because there was a more crazy intersection somewhere else that we felt like we needed the barrel. But we will be coming back around with hopefully more signage to as soon as we acquire the materials we need. So, but I've personally gotten some good feedback. My street was one of the streets. And so hopefully, you know, people enjoy them, and also let us know what's working, what isn't working, because we will, like we moved around barrels, we will move around other things as demand and safety warrant. So that's great. And the last thing I'll mention, because I know I've been thinking about it quite a bit, is summer camp. We haven't made a final decision on the municipal summer camp. We are trying to see if we can make it work, albeit with reduced enrollment in an outdoor setting. However, the guidance just today came out, or maybe it was late last night, I'm not sure which, from the state. So we need to kind of review that very closely to make sure we can comply with the requirements before we make an announcement, but we hope to know one way or the other by the end of the week. So parents, bear with us just a little bit longer while we sort through that. And that's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. Borough Attorney, do you have a report?
I do not, Mayor.
Okay. I do have a report for this evening. On the agenda for tonight's council vote is a resolution that condemns the Minneapolis police actions that led to the death of Mr. George Floyd. I included in that resolution the Obama pledge that I and at least one other council member I'm aware of have already taken. It includes reviewing our police use of force policies. This is an ongoing process, and it includes the review of all camera video that involves use of force reports. I know this is going on right now. Captain Curbelo and our chief do review video of any use of force reports that come in. And as you're all probably aware, for a couple of years now, our officers have been required to wear cameras at all times, and they are turned on. Secondly, engaging our community by including a diverse range of input, experiences, and stories in our review. Now, we've been holding quarterly open public police forums so that we can get some input from the public. As Councilwoman Foster-Dublin discussed, COVID sort of put a damper on that, and I'm very thrilled to hear that we will be having the June 25th quarterly program through Zoom. Secondly, under engaging, we are talking about reformulating a diverse equity group to inform the HRC and governing body. As you all probably know, that is a subject that's on our work session for later today. Third, reporting the findings of our review to the community and seeking feedback. The police have discussed a contract with Rutgers University for the regular analysis of their stop data. Again, unfortunately, COVID came into play, and they haven't been able to execute a contract at this point, but that is one of the first things that they will be doing once the folks at Rutgers return to work. I know they have been in email contact with them. Next, under reporting, we are establishing, what I'd like to see us establish, I should say, is a regular HPPD website reporting of our monthly stop data. Once we can get this analyzed by the Rutgers University group, I would like to see us report more of this information on our website, and that is something we'll be talking about moving forward. The last point under the Obama Pledge is reforming our community's use of force policies. I think I need everyone to understand that the state of New Jersey may be different from many, many other states in the country, if not all of them, in the fact that each municipal police department operates under the guidelines issued by the Attorney General's office. And that is why the HPPD operates under the AG's use of force policy. AG Gruel has said that he will be very soon, I believe in sometime before September. I've heard July, but I'm not sure if it's going to happen in July. He's going to be updating this policy. If you're interested in seeing what the policy looks like right now and reviewing this document, you can find it at nj.gov/OAG/DCJ/AGguide.com. Finally, on the council's work agenda for this evening is a discussion of restructuring the Human Relations Commission to include separate independent subcommissions, including Immigrant and Refugee Task Force or Commission, the Equity Commission, and a new Anti-Semitism Commission. I understand that there has been some confusion regarding the establishment of the original Equity Commission. I want to make it clear that the Equity Commission has always been a commission of the Borough of Highland Park, governed by the rules established by the Borough Council. It is, in effect, an advisory board to the mayor and council. The bylaws were written by the HPEC, and the bylaws were approved by the governing body. Each member of the existing HPEC is appointed by the mayor, me, with consent of the Borough Council. The new format under the Human Relations Commission that's being discussed will not be any less independent than it was before. My understanding is that Councilwoman Stephanie Kim Chohan has a list of 7 volunteers who have expressed interest in or have already been appointed to the HRC or HPEC subcommission. Later tonight, during our work session, we'll be reviewing the proposed restructuring of the HRC, and we welcome your comments during the open public session. Which is a good lead-in for me to our first public discussion. This session can last 21 minutes in total, 3 minutes for each separate speaker, limited to items that are on the agenda, including the work session agenda. I'm going to ask that we stick to the 21 minutes for this portion. As I said, 3 minutes maximum per speaker. Comments are limited again to agenda items. If you want to speak on an item that is not on the agenda tonight, there will be an opportunity to do so later in the evening. The Borough Administrator, Terry, will monitor the time and indicate when 3 minutes has lapsed. And I'd ask you to respect all the other speakers and limit yourself to that amount of time. So now, if you would like to speak, please so-called raise your hand by pressing *9 on your phone keypad, or if you're on your computer or smart device, select the raise hand button in the application. Our Borough Administrator will announce your turn by reading out your name or the last 4 digits of your phone number. Please begin by telling us your first and last name, as well as your address. Again, if you'd like to speak about a topic on the agenda, please press *9 or the raise hand button now.
Mary, you ready for me to call on somebody?
If you've got them queued up, yes.
All righty. It looks like, well, the person I thought I was going to call on unhid his hand, I think. Hold on. Let me just make sure. I'll just go to the next one in my queue. It looks like Sonia Headlam. If you're now unmuted, please just restate your name and address. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you so much. My name is Sonia Headlam. I live at 133 Benner Street. And I want to address a couple things on the agenda, the HPEC, as well as the mayor talking about her signing the recent pledge, Obama pledge. And I'm going to do something unusual, because instead of using this time to talk directly to our mayor and council, like I have done now in countless council meetings, as well as countless commission meetings, phone calls, emails, texts, I'm going to use this time to speak directly to all community members that have shown up tonight, especially those of you that might be here due to the amazing energy and attention that is being given across our country to the Black Lives Matter movement. As a Black woman, as a mother, thank you for being here. In March 2018, after an incident of racial profiling of a young Black student in our town, 445 people signed a change.org petition regarding discriminatory policing in Highland Park, New Jersey. The petition had a list of demands that were drawn directly from President Obama's 2015 task force on 21st century policing, very similar to what the mayor is saying she has just now signed. Those demands focused on the following: doing a comprehensive audit, in-depth police training in the areas of racial bias and de-escalation, a plan for regular reviewing policing data and sharing that data with the community in a transparent fashion, and establishing an anonymous complaint process, and creating an all-civilian oversight structure looking carefully at policies around bias and use of force. In December 2018, due to the force report published by NewJersey.com, which showed that Highland Park police were 1,033% more likely to use force with Black people, and because none of our demands from 9 months earlier had been met, despite our weekly appearances at council meetings, another change.org petition circulated, and this one drew the signatures of 115 people. By January 2019, the mayor and council approved creation of the Highland Park Equity Commission. However, I don't think it was a coincidence that the council person assigned as the commission's liaison had recently published an article stating that change.org petitioners in particular were irate, short-sighted, and silly for demanding changes to our town for the disparities seen in the New Jersey Force Report. Talk about insulting. This council person thwarted all of our efforts and made progress painfully slow at best. Needless to say, we accomplished little, and I left the commission when it was co-opted and politicized for an issue that was highly controversial and had nothing to do with policing. So I want to ask you all, what is going to be different this time? Here we are again, bringing our concerns and demands to the mayor and council. And as you can see, I'm using my breath tonight to talk to you. We need to start thinking about what will it take for our voices to really be heard. You being here is a huge part of how we move forward. It is easy for people to think that it's only other people's having this problem in Minneapolis and Louisville and New York City, and that somehow Highland Park does not have this problem. But the statistics we have to date clearly state otherwise. So far, our mayor and council have refused.
Excuse me, Sonia, you've hit your 3 minutes.
I'm almost done. Refused to take action. In fact, they have shut us down. So where do we go from here? I don't want those of you here tonight for the first time to end up like me. And in case you think that our leadership has been moved to finally do something for us here in Highland Park that is more than march and chant around town, I can tell you, I listened to our mayor's speeches at the various marches and rallies around town. And after her cries of Black Lives Matter, she was asking people to vote in the November elections and register. We can't allow ourselves to fall into the trap of thinking that voting out Trump is going to change our policing policies here in HP. The November elections are, of course, very important, but this work is done on a local level. Our mayor is responsible, and our police chief reports to her. Our town's leadership has proven again and again that they're incapable of taking action, and we need a change of leadership across the board. We all need to come together in this moment, harness our power, our networks and brains to dismantle the people supporting and perpetuating inequities and injustice, targeting people of color in our community. To stay in touch with me and this cause, please email biasfreehp, all lowercase, no spaces, no dashes, biasfreehp@gmail.com.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, we do have another person. They're coming up on my screen as Lucinda. Lucinda, you're unmuted. Please state your name and your address for the record.
Of course, thank you. My name is Lucinda Holt. I live at 501 Raritan Avenue. I'm not going to rehash any of the history that Sonia just shared, but I do want to address some of the challenges and barriers that the Highland Park Equity Commission faced. I was on the commission for a little over a year. Half of the commission members were people of color, and this provided an opportunity for us community members to share a different perspective with the mayor, with the council. And the commission's mission was to collaborate with the mayor, borough council, and municipal departments to maintain diversity, eliminate disparities, and achieve equity. In its first year, the commission pushed to have community involvement in the hiring process for the acting chief and captain. The commission's participation was limited to providing a few questions and rubrics for assessing the candidates' answers to questions related to equity, which included implicit and explicit bias, procedural justice, police, community relations in Highland Park, data collection, and analysis. The commission also repeatedly asked for the benchmarks being developed by the mentor-in-chief to measure the progress the chief and captain were making in their new roles. The mayor promised to review the acting chief and captain's performance at the 6-month and year mark after their hires. The commission members received the benchmarks a year after the acting chief and captain had been hired. Had there been the political will, these benchmarks could have been received in a timely fashion and used to assess the acting chief and captain's work as promised. In spite of this missed opportunity to assess the acting chief and captain's work, acting chief Abrams proved himself willing to make some much needed changes in practices and protocols to improve the culture at the Highland Park Police Department. He also began to have officers attend training on a range of topics, including implicit bias and de-escalation tactics. These were some initial first steps in the right direction. The challenge is that research has shown that many of these trainings are not all that effective. The commission wanted some means of gauging how effective these trainings were and requested that the newly instituted Highland Park Police quarterly forums, at the forums, the chief and captain share what trainings the department was receiving and review and analyze police data that might begin to provide some means of gauging what progress, if any, was being made in reducing bias and use of force. These are just a few details that reflect a bit of the progress the commission made and the barriers it faced in having this work prioritized by some who would argue there is no racial bias or injustice, though the numerical and anecdotal data say otherwise. Given the events of the past 2 weeks, we know that there are many Highland Park community members who are ready to see greater reforms in policing, and Chief Abrams has shown himself to be open and willing to work with the commission and the greater community. But the work of the Equity Commission and the reforms that the community is calling for will continue to languish if the Equity Commission is subsumed under the Human Relations Commission, soon to be the Human Rights Commission, and mired in further local bureaucracy, counter to what the mayor said earlier. I hope the mayor and council have the political will to support this important and potentially life-saving work by reviewing and approving the new applicants who applied last fall to be on the Equity Commission and maintaining the Equity Commission's independence and ability to carry out this work. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucinda. Terry, do we have someone else, and how are we doing on overall time?
Good point. We have another 12 minutes of public comment remaining. I'm going to ask the person whose phone number ends in 8735. We've unmuted your phone. That's 8735. Please give us your name and address.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I'm just making sure that was my number because I'm using a different phone. Don't start my time until I'm recognized. Crystal Macropolis, 14 Fox Road.
That's in Edison, I believe.
Yes, Edison, New Jersey. I'm the person who was spit on at your rally where the mayor allowed over 25 people to mass gather against the governor's orders. I want to speak about the Obama resolution that you guys are passing now. But before that, I want to say God bless the first speaker. The first speaker said 100% the truth. Shame on you, Mayor Mittler, for using the George Floyd tragedy to promote your left-wing radical political agenda. This isn't about politics. This is about human rights and injustice. I was spit on and assaulted. I have the video on YouTube. You can watch it on YouTube, Jersey Watcher YouTube channel. The man who spits on people during coronavirus. The Edison and Highland Park cops did nothing about it, even though I was assaulted and spit on and had the evidence of it. I know where the man lives. I want to know why. Last time we spoke, you said we can't speak for non-Highland Park related issues, but today you get to speak for Minneapolis, so you're a hypocrite, Mayor. You refuse to acknowledge historical facts like that. Please don't interrupt me. This is my time.
Mr. McCrum.
This is my time. Excuse me. May I speak?
Let me just say something, please.
So you can waste my time? You can speak after I speak.
No, Mr. Macropolis, here in Highland Park, I don't know how things are in Edison, but here in Highland Park, we are respectful of one another when we speak to one another.
Excuse me, this is the United States of America, and I was spit on at your event. Did you denounce that? What does Foster-Dublin mean when she says don't call the police? Everybody should call the police if they see suspicious activity. I would like your Councilwoman Foster-Dublin to clarify on that.
Terry,
okay?
Are we on time?
We've got only a minute left on.
Your dear management, stop interrupting me. Stop interrupting me.
Event last week.
Stop interrupting me. Dear management is a code word to genocide and massacre innocent animals. You should be ashamed of yourself. I mean, you guys can use any excuse that you want that they're being overpopulated, but what right do you guys have to kill something that God created? What right does your town council have to extinguish life? You don't have that right. And I will be speaking in public comments. I have a lot more to say, and Mayor, I don't like how you insinuated what we do here. Excuse me, this is the United States of America. I have my First Amendment right to freedom of speech, and it's not my fault that you use tragedies like George Floyd to promote your left-wing radical agendas. First of all, your Democratic candidate, Joe Biden, used to support the KKK Grand Master, okay? Hillary, Biden, Obama, they all supported Nazis in Ukraine and ISIS in Syria.
Is the borough attorney on?
Yes.
Are we allowed to let people go on and making claims about other people that like that?
Mayor, I think you have a time limit anyway, and I think his time is probably up at this point.
Yeah, I was just going to say we've gone a little over the 3 minutes. Should we move to the next speaker?
Yes, please.
The next person coming up on the line here is Michelle Raciapi, who I think I know. You've been unmuted. Please repeat your name and your address for the record.
Yes. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. Hi, Terry. So my name is Michelle Raciapi. I live at 105 South 2nd Ave. I've lived in Highland Park since 2008. I'm also chair of the Highland Park Historical Commission. So just to say on that note really quick, I understand how making the Equity Commission some kind of like subcommittee or advisory to another committee is definitely not the same as having it be a separate commission or some type of independent on their own commission. You know, we already as a commission face you know, certain understandable levels of bureaucracy, but having them be subsumed into another commission is a totally different thing. And to say that they're the same thing is totally misleading. So I just want to say that I stand with the previous callers from Bias Free Highland Park and the things that they said. I have not really been involved in this much, but at their most recent phone call, I learned some really shocking statistics about Highland Park, which came from the data that was collected, including one that really blew me away, which is that our police force uses force at a rate higher than 70% of other police departments in the state. So that's a lot. There are, you know, however many municipalities, a police force for each one. That's a lot for us to be that high up on the list. So, and there's a number of other very, you know, shocking statistics about the use of force and racial disparities, and how that force that we use at a higher rate is also used at a higher rate on Black people. So it's really just horrible. And we don't really have any way to know if those numbers are still accurate or not, because as the mayor mentioned earlier, that data has not been released yet. And I don't understand why do you need to analyze the data before you release it. I support you analyzing the data, that's fine, but you should also just make that data public. There's no reason why you need to analyze it first. Just make it public, let people see it. You know, that kind of worries me, that you guys want to get a look at it first and do your own analysis before you release it. I would just like to see that data released immediately. You've been collecting it now for over almost a year, I'm told. So you should just release that data. You know, other questions that I would just put to the council and to the mayor would be, you know, what evidence do you have that any of these numbers in this data has changed in the last 3 years? And what, you know, how long do we have to wait to see more equitable policing? Even if there is a drop in the new numbers that come out, what is an acceptable number? It should be zero disparity. It should be, you know, zero use of unnecessary force. And if those numbers aren't reflected, what will you do about it? You know, how long do we need to wait to achieve equitable, you know, policing and better community?
Excuse me, Michelle, you're a little over 3 minutes.
Okay, thanks, Terry. I think I got my point across.
Michelle, I want to address a couple of the things that you mentioned. The first thing is, when I was talking about the analysis of the data, that was a request that was made of us regarding stock data, not use of force. While we have the data, the idea was to be able to analyze it for presentation, not so we can get a look at it before anybody else did. The other thing, I just got some information earlier today because I was asking those same questions about use of force. And, you know, clearly there were even more significant issues in the past. I asked for data, some numbers from 2016 through today. And just looking at my notes here, just today I got some information. For 2016 and 2017, there was an average of 24 use of force reports a year. In 2018 and 2019, that average dropped down to 10 per year. I just want to note that the new chief and captain came into place a little over a year ago. So they've been in place since 2019. And year to date in 2020, so far there are 3 use of force reports. So I agree with you. Getting to 0 is something that we need to strive for. I'm encouraged by the numbers going down, and I'm hoping that we'll be able to see more of that going forward. I know that Captain Curbelo is is in the meeting today. Captain, are you there still?
Yes, I am. Good afternoon.
do you want to talk to any of the numbers and that I don't have information on?
Sure. As the mayor stated, the numbers from 2016 and 2017 compared to 2018, 2019 have dropped by over half. This is due to increased training. We've updated policies, directives. We've increased oversight and accountability. This is an ongoing, everyday working to make our police department, the best police department that it could be. We are continuing training all of our officers since the chief and I were promoted last year, have completed implicit bias training, de-escalation training, police professionalism training, along with a host of other trainings that other officers have completed. And we agree this isn't a one-time thing. This needs to be done on a yearly basis with officers, with all the officers, starting from the chief all the way down to our newest hire. These are stats that we have, and when we mean that we're reviewing the stats, one of the recommendations was to have an outside party look at our stats. We did meet with the Rutgers Center on Policing, and we had met with them even in January, so we can start giving them our stats. Unfortunately, the COVID pandemic happened, and everything on their end, they weren't working. So as soon as they're back up and working, we were emailing back and forth today, actually. It is something that we're going to do, and these stats are going to be readily available. And this is what we're doing going forward.
Thank you, Captain. Borough Administrator, since we took some time in responding to the question, I'd like to extend the 21 minutes a little bit. Does anybody on the council have a problem with that? Okay, all right, so let's call two more people. I think that would be fair instead of...
That was pretty much where we were before we responded there. So okay. The next speaker is Rob Scott, comes up as Rob Scott. Please repeat your name and your address for the record, please. You're unmuted.
My name is Rob Scott. I live at 25 South 2nd Avenue, Highland Park. Before I get started, I just wanted to ask, since we can't see it, can somebody who's an administrator on the Zoom call let us know how many members of the public are here attending this meeting?
Sure, I wasn't aware that you couldn't see that. We have 81 members of the public attending.
Wow. So first I wanted to say thanks to Sonia for your very eloquent words at the start. I'm glad you took more than your 3 minutes. The mayor, council, and community needed to hear them. I stand with you. We are experiencing some turbulent times, and I hope that the mayor and council will understand that the turbulence of the past weeks are really the fruits of inaction and empty words, and I fear we've heard more empty words tonight. This is why I want to ask for some immediate actions. First, I hope that the mayor and each member of the council will admit that we have a problem in Highland Park with racist policing. We've known this for some time, and my neighbors who are black and brown have been much more acutely aware of the problem. We also now have very clear data on the problem. The DeLacy Davis report from September found that black drivers in town were 2.5 times more likely to be stopped than would be expected based on the town population of black drivers. We also know that the rate of use of force is higher in the Highland Park Police Department than 331 other departments out of a total of 468 departments. Given that Highland Park is a small town, given what we like to think about our town, we should be well below the average. So please, I hope you can all start by admitting that we have a problem. That's the first step. And next, we need to hear what's going to be done about the problem. I think going forward that it's critical to do what others have asked and keep the HPEC, the Highland Park Equity Commission, independent from the Human Relations Commission. Don't do some bureaucratic reshuffle, years into saying you're going to study and do something about the problem. Okay, we need something with teeth, and we need the people who've applied to that to be appointed. I have some other questions too. I'm asking that you all think big. Our values are implemented by budgets. And I looked at the proposed borough budget, and the budget line for the police is 25% of the total. That is very high. What that says is that we value racist policing. And so I would ask, and I think many members of the public would agree, that you should reevaluate that budget line and ask, how can we implement the values that this town claims to uphold? The values that we claim to uphold when everyone assembles on the football field and chants, no justice, no peace, okay?
We're over the 3-minute mark, Mr. Scott.
Can I just finish?
I asked the mayor.
How much longer do you have? I mean,
I have 3 more sentences.
Excuse me?
I have 3 more sentences.
Go ahead.
One place we can start is to seriously assess what the needs of our community actually are. What are Highland Park's public safety needs? What have we asked of the police? I think if we answer that question, we may discover that we are better served by our tax dollars directed at the schools, cooperative programs with the schools, and public health. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Terry, do we have anyone else?
We do. You indicated one more speaker.
Right.
Next up is someone coming up as Dean M. Please state your full name and your address. And you should be able to speak now. Hello? Dean? You may be muted on your end. It's not us.
Hello?
Miss Dean, we'll give you one more chance and we're going to go to the next person. There'll be a second public comment and you can re-raise your hand. Hopefully we'll work out this technical issue. Next person is Scott Brustein. You're now unmuted. If you could please state your name and address.
My name is Scott Brustein. I live at 38 South First Avenue. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Go right ahead.
I just wanted to thank you for appointing me to the Arts Commission, and I'm looking forward to working with the other members of the Arts Commission to make Highland Park beautiful. That's actually all I had to say. If you want to use my time to bring up the next person, by all means, feel free. I'm done. Again, thank you very much for this opportunity.
We're looking forward to having you working with us, Scott.
Mayor, I defer to you how you want to handle it. We're at almost 8 o'clock at this point.
All right, so let's move on, and anybody who has not had a chance to speak at this session can certainly come up again at the second session, which is, I believe, right before our work session.
And I would encourage, I believe if people keep their hands raised, they'll stay in the order that they're in now, so you'll stay at the in line, so that those of you who've had your hand raised up until this point will be up at the top when we reopen.
Okay, thank you. All right, Clerk, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay. Clerk, can you please report on advertising cap rate exception ordinance for consideration of passage on final reading by title?
Calendar year ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limits and to establish a cap bank was duly advertised for consideration of passage on final reading by title, and affidavits of publication are on file. The ordinance was posted and made available for public inspection as required by law.
Okay, may I have a motion to take up the ordinance on final reading by title? I believe Phil was trying to say so.
Sorry, I'm looking for the unmute button. So moved.
Okay. Can I have a second? Okay, thank you. Any public hearing?
Oh, now I have all those hands raised, Mayor. I hadn't anticipated that. I'm going to have to.
Anybody that wants to talk about the cap rate exception ordinance
Yeah, I think people are going to have to unraise their hand and re-raise them for the next, because we have a few items of public hearing. The hands came down in a flurry, Mayor. I guess this one isn't a hot one. So yes, I do not see any hands raised for public comment on this matter.
Okay. In that case, may I have yes? Okay.
Sorry, I wanted to clarify. Emma had to lower the hands so that we could establish new hand raised. So let me allow people one more chance. If you want to speak to the cap rate ordinance at this time, you have one more shot. Okay.
Okay.
Sorry about
and
that.
May I have a resolution to adopt or reject and advertise the ordinance on final reading by title? Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Councilman Fine.
Yes.
Councilwoman Foster-Dublin.
Yes.
Councilman George.
Yes.
Councilman Hale.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kim Chohan.
Yes.
Okay, clerk, can you please report on advertising the public hearing on the 2020 budget?
The 2020 Highland Park municipal budget was introduced and approved on first reading on May 5th, 2020. A summary was duly advertised in the Home News Tribune on May 22nd, 2020, with the public hearing scheduled for today, June 9th, 2020. The budget was made available to the public on the borough's website.
May I have a motion to open the public hearing?
Motion.
Moved.
All right, any public comment on the 2020 budget?
I just ask people to once again re-raise hands or press *9 if you'd like to make a comment on the budget. Looks like we have a couple coming up. The first one on my screen, Mayor, is someone named Mike Rowland. Mike, you are unmuted. Please restate your name and your address.
Mike Rowland. So I live in New Jersey. So
You
how
live
much
in
in the
Highland?
budget?
Excuse me, we need your name and address.
I gave my name and I gave my address.
Sorry, we need your street address.
No, thank you. So the
Borough attorney,
how much in the
allowed
budget?
to have
How
comment
much in the
about-
budget is it? Is
Mr. Rowland, you need to
What?
identify your address for council in order to speak.
no? The Sunshine Law doesn't require me to give an address.
Borough attorney, again, I have to turn to you. I don't know the answer to this.
I believe he needs to identify at least the community he lives in. I'll have to.
I live in New Jersey. I did. So, how much in the budget?
I don't know what to do here. I have to rely on you.
I think you should allow him to speak.
Correct.
Okay.
So how much in the budget do we have in there for body cameras?
Borough
I guess I'm not clear on this format, Mayor. Do you want me to respond as questions come up?
I guess he's asking questions on the budget.
Yes, I mean, I don't have a body cam number. There's a general line for other expenses outside of salary and wages, of which that is an item. We do have broken down numbers elsewhere, but I don't have that handy, I'm afraid.
How many body cameras did the police department have?
That would be a question maybe the captain could help with.
Captain, how many body cameras do you have?
We have 20, we actually have 30 body cameras. We have more, we just ordered more body cameras as spare. So we have a body camera for every single officer.
And what system do you use to capture and record and save the data?
We currently use Axon body cameras.
Okay, and how long do they save for?
That is as per the Attorney General guidelines on record retention. Everything is different.
Okay, and you also have dash cams in all your cars?
Yes, we do.
Okay, excellent. I'll be over requesting them tomorrow. So, Captain, how are we going to change?
Excuse me, this is not open public comment. This is only about the budget hearing. So if you had, there will be another session, Mr. Rolland, when you can come up and state your name and address. And,
are we going to stop interrupting me, or am I going to be able to talk about the budget?
Oh, you can. As I said, this is.
Well, you just spoke over me.
Excuse me.
You're excused.
No. Excuse me.
Yes, you're excused. So, Captain,
who are you?
What type of budget are we going to have in there to try to mitigate and do better police work? Do we have anything in the budget for that?
So what I would suggest, Mr. Rolland, is
You're not the captain, are you?
Excuse me?
You're excused again. Are you the captain?
Okay.
No,
Borough attorney,
I don't know what to do. Like, this is enough.
So the captain refuses to answer that?
The captain will be more than happy to answer any of your questions if you give him a call or go to the police department.
I thought this is a public comment section about budget. But yet you keep on interrupting me.
Okay, borough attorney.
Just ask him about his policing future.
Mr. Rolland.
About the budget. I mean, I don't know if you're hard of hearing, but that's what I asked about.
No, you asked him how are we going to do better. That's what you asked him about. We're going off the budget.
I asked him what we're going to.
I can't even hear. It's breaking up now.
Yeah, I can't hear him either. Okay, can we go on to the next person, please?
All righty. It looks like we have another hand raised. It's coming up on my screen as Dan Machere or something to that effect. I apologize for pronunciation. If you could state your name and your address for the record, please. You should be unmuted at this point, or not. Let me think. There you go. Sorry about that, Dan. You should be able to speak now.
No problem. My name is Dan Metcher, 233 Denison Street. I lived in Highland Park for about 13 years. Again, thank you for Sonia for her words, and I support them completely. The current budget line for the Highland Park PD is $3.5 million just for salaries and over $4 million total. So as others have mentioned, the time for mild reforms and analyzing statistics is over. It has been over 4 years since your police department was involved in the killing of Daniel Nagahama in broad daylight on camera. You did nothing. It has been over 2 years since Amiri Pollock was profiled and had 5 police cars surround his house for the crime of being a black teenager that happened to live on the north side. You initially denied that there was even a problem with the HPPD. It has been over 1.5 years since the release of the force report, which showed that a black president is 1,033% more likely to have force used against them. Your response was to claim that you needed to analyze more statistics, and when you did, those statistics also showed racial disparities in traffic stops. I see that the council member Hale would rather text than listen to these comments, but I would just say that enough. Hopefully the last few weeks have been a wake-up call. It's critical that HPC remain a commission independent from the Human Relations Commission, that the mayor immediately make appointments. As mentioned, some of the demands of the bias-free HP group was that there be a group with actual power to oversee the police, including subpoena power. Instead, you're subsuming the commission under another. You also need to act on the reforms they propose rather than stonewalling the HPC, but you need to do more than that. As we've seen in department after department around the country, new leadership and more training is not enough. Minneapolis had previously been a model of implementing police reforms, the same reforms which you resisted and fought every step of the way. Following the murder of George Floyd, the Minneapolis City Council now has a veto-proof majority that has committed to defunding the police department and reinvesting those funds into the community. I'd like to quote Minneapolis City Council President Lisa Bender, quote, "Our efforts at incremental reform have failed, period." Again, our efforts at incremental reform have failed, period, end of quote. Local politicians from LA to New York to much smaller towns have vowed to do the same. Defunding police departments and reinvesting that money back into the hardest hit communities is an official demand of the national Black Lives Matter movement. So my simple yes or no question to each of you is, do you support this goal of the Black Lives Matter movement? And will you commit today to begin to immediately defund the HPPD and reinvest that money into the community? Yes or no? I would like to hear from each of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else?
I see two more hands, Mayor. It looks like Greg McLendon. Wants to make, again, this is regarding the budget. And you are now unmuted. Please state your name and address for the record.
Sure, Greg McClendon, 433 River Road, Highland Park. I'd like to come in actually during the public forum. I just put my hand up because I want to stay in queue. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Give it another second and then pop your hand back up. We have a couple more items that will require public hearing, maybe public hearing, not yet. So just keep in mind, we have a little more work before we get to the next public comment. I see one more hand raised, the phone number ending in 8735. And again, we're talking about the municipal budget hearing. Please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, Krista, I would like to speak about the police budget.
Who is, could you please give me the name and address?
According to Sunshine Law, I don't have to give you my address. I told you I'm Krista. I'm the guy who got spit at the rally that you sponsored. May I speak about the budget now?
You certainly may. You do know that this is Highland Park budget, not Edison budget, correct?
Okay, I'm just gonna ignore you now. So, about the police budget.
You ignoring me? I just want.
Can you please stop interrupting me? I'm gonna ignore stupid questions. I called in the Highland Park Council, didn't I? So obviously, I know we're speaking about a Highland Park budget. Is there a reason why you keep interrupting me, ma'am?
Borough Attorney,
I'm 1 minute into my time, and I'm trying to speak to Captain Jose Corbello. Are you going to continue to interrupt me, or are you going to restart my time?
I'm telling you that this is a time to ask a question about the budget.
And I'm trying to, and you've been interrupting me ever since and saying stupid questions. And when I try to continue and ignoring stupid questions, look, you continue interrupting me.
Look,
can you know what? I'm here to speak to Jose Corbello. This is about the police budget. Captain, can you hear me?
Captain, if this is a question about the budget and you would like to answer it, you may answer it.
Yes, Captain, your master gave you permission. Can I ask you a question, Captain Jose Corbello?
Sir, I'm sorry.
Oh my God! We're about to hit 2 minutes and you're not letting me answer.
That was a racist comment. Cut him off.
Right. We're not going to permit you to speak that way. If you can't speak with respect.
Speak what way? When did I make a racist comment?
You just called her his master. If you're not going to be respectful, we're going to cut you off.
Well, why did he have to ask for permission? I was asking to speak to him this whole time, and he had to get permission from his master. Now you're going to say that's racist?
Move to the next speaker, please.
Mayor, can we move to the next speaker?
Captain Corbello, can I ask a question?
Next speaker is Monique Coleman, coming up on my screen. Please restate your name and address. You've been unmuted.
Hi, Monique Coleman, 407 Lincoln Avenue. And yes, my question is about specifically looking at the police budget. And, you know, in light of this national global civil rights movement, the likes of which we have not seen before, and in light of the fact that I know Mayor, you started off this evening restating your commitment to in support of Black Lives Matter, as did Councilmember Elsie Foster-Dublin. We all, many of us, I'm sure most of us, were at the rally in town this past week and heard time and time again our local officials, religious leaders, county and state level officials raising the rallying cry around Black Lives Matter. But when we get to the hard, deep issues that are being raised by the Black Lives Matter movement and have been raised for many years now, I think we're still missing the mark, because if you can't talk about in this moment seriously looking at reallocating a percentage of the police budget to community social service development, youth development, education, specifically focused on the deep racial disparities that we have across the board, whether it be in housing, whether it be in access to quality of life, public health, and safety in our borough, then your words in public fall on deeply hollow ground. So I'm asking you now, while this budget is being still reviewed and worked through, will you consider taking into serious consideration and pledging to say, yes, we support Black Lives Matter, and this is what we are going to do in our budget to show that support? Because Black Lives Matter is saying we need to start reallocating funding, not to away from law enforcement that often has bloated budgets, and moving those funds into the communities that need it most. And we are not immune to the type of problems that we've seen all across this country, whether it's in urban city centers or small towns. We have a lot of work to do here to address the disparities in quality of life in this borough. And you can make a concrete commitment this day. I mean, you have mayors across the country who have already committed in 1 week's time, and I'm speaking directly to you, Mayor Gail, have already committed to say, I am going to ask my council to adopt a measure to allocate police funding to youth violence prevention, youth development, community service. I'm asking you, Mayor, is that something you're willing to do? And council?
I'm telling you, Monique, that what I would like to do, because I don't have the numbers in front of me, but what I do want to do is take an in-depth look at the police budget line by line and the other social service budgets that we have that do address some of the things that you're talking about, like the teen center, etc., and see where we stand when I look at the line by line thing, and then hopefully you'll allow me to look at it and work with Councilwoman Foster-Dublin, who has the budget responsibility for the police department. And we will take a look at it and look at all the other social service lines, because I think they need to be looked at as well, so that we are providing the services that are necessary. I do want to say that Councilwoman Foster-Dublin for years had been asking to have a teen center where some of our young men and women could be mentored. And I think the teen center, she had been asking for 14 years. We finally got to putting it together soon after I became mayor. We worked on making it happen. And I'm so proud to say that as of this graduating class and the class of last year, every single one of our kids from the program have found places to go for education beyond high school. Elsie, you can talk to that more than I can if you'd like to.
We have 98% of them have gone off to college, and I think the other 2% have gone into the armed services. This year, we're graduating 16 of the graduates we're having, and we'll be going to be doing a ceremony for them next week. And they are also going off. We have 16 going off to colleges, and we're putting together college care packages for those group of 16 that's going to be leaving and going off to college. So I would say this is something that I've advocated for years, to have a teen center. And we have seen, and I do agree with Monique, we have seen the benefits of when you put community social program, youth development program, and youth services in place, the benefits that can be had in our communities for our young people, to a place for them to grow, a place for them to learn, a place for them to gather, and to encourage each other. And they have a phenomenal leader such as Ashton, who works with them in the schools and at the teen center, and bring in tons and tons of resources, speakers, and you name it, from speakers to different engagements to trips and educational opportunities. and mentors for these young people so they can strive and they can grow. And we've seen the results for the past 2 years. The center has been open, that they have gone on to higher education or into the armed services.
So
and one of the things I would like to add to that as well, when I first started out this thing, I wanted to see a PAL, a police, a PAL league that would put in place so the young people and the police department could work together. This didn't happen to be a PAL setting like the traditional PAL, but what we have seen is that the police department and the teen center have collaborated on many programs and have worked on different things throughout the past 2 years that we have seen, and how that relationship have grown a lot. And I'm quite sure there's always room for improvement. And you know, opportunities will come and we'll look at things differently, because as there's always room for improvement, there's always things that we can do better. And I am committed to make sure I'm a part of that change, as long as I'm here to help foster that kind of change that will improve and empower our young people.
So Monique, I think what I'm saying is, you know, that I want to sit down with Elsie and the borough administrator and look at the line by lines, and also look at the social services areas to see if we can make some movement.
Okay, well, thank you, Elsie, for giving that overview of the work of the Teen Center. I guess I still just, I have to emphasize that if you're going to use the name of Black Lives Matter and wear this badge of support for it, then that means you have to do more than just commit to looking at something. It means that you have to actually be bold enough to say, I know as Elsie, Council Member Elsie Foster-Dublin has already stated, you know that there are areas where improvement can be made, right? Despite, as you mentioned, the impact that the youth center, teen center is having on a segment of the teen population. But we already know there's still a lot that can be done in other areas, including youth development. And you know that the police department has an outside-sized budget. So what I am, based on the history, what I am really concerned about is you saying tonight that the best you can do is look at it and see if there's anything you can do, rather than committing to, in the name of Black Lives Matter, which you started off claiming, we are going to find a way to reallocate funding that does not in any way impact the public safety of our community, but yet enhances it. And at the same time, funnels money into community services, social services that will support the work of our police department. I don't understand why you just can't say that, but yet you can still say Black Lives Matter, we support Black Lives Matter. And I'm not trying to, I just want you to understand the magnitude of, because everyone's throwing around and waving the flag of support for Black Lives Matter at this time. So what does it mean?
So let me just say this. The only reason I'm not saying I definitely am going to take money from one line and put it to another is I don't have those lines in front of me. I need to be able to see where the money line by line is allocated and find places where we have such tight budgets, and I don't, again, I can't make a commitment to something I don't see in front of me. I definitely want to see an improvement in our community policing. I definitely want to see our youth being addressed. I'm happy to talk with you again in a day or so after I've had the chance to sit with Elsie and the budget and and go line by line to see where there is money that can be allocated. I don't have that in front of me. Again, Monique, if I had the budget sitting in front of me, if Elsie and I had gone over it prior to this meeting, line by line, then I would definitely tell you where it could happen. I don't want to make a commitment to something without having the numbers in front of me. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, fair enough. And I would certainly appreciate you allowing me to be involved in the follow-up on this. I do appreciate that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so if there are no other budget questions.
There are additional hands raised, Mayor. We have next up in the queue, Sophia McDermott Hughes. You are unmuted. Please restate your name and address.
Hi, Sophia McDermott Hughes, 330 South 3rd. I raised my hand for public comment. Is this just for the budget at this moment?
It is. Yes. So we'd ask you to keep your hand down until we get to that item. Thank you. Next on the list, again, this is regarding the municipal budget adoption this evening, and this is the public hearing therein. Elena Gerstmann, you are going to be unmuted as of right now. Please restate your name and address.
I'm sorry, I meant to lower it. It's for the public comment later.
Okay, all right. I'm going to give everybody a second to lower their hands if they don't have a comment on the budget, but I don't see too many at this point. It looks like Rob Scott would like to speak on the budget. Please state your name and address again.
All right, Rob Scott, 25 South 2nd Avenue. I guess I just wanted to amplify what Monique said, and I feel like y'all are just missing the point here. We are so beyond there's room for improvement. We are so beyond we need to look for it line by line. The fabric of the country is coming apart. We're living in a global pandemic. This town has new public health needs that it never had before. The schools are about to be hit by a hurricane of funding demands. So it is not time to look at the budget line by line and have a meeting and not have prepared for the city council meeting. What it's time for is to say, oh my God, 25% on the police who have a record of racist policing is too much, and we need to find a way to do it better. So what I would ask the mayor to say, and I'd ask each of the council members, why don't you pledge right now to doing better and finding a way to find room in the budget for the other priorities that are coming down the pike. And maybe answer that question, is 25%, is that the right amount for the police?
Okay, so as I said before, we're gonna, Elsie and I are gonna go through this and talk to Monique, you'll hear from the whole community will hear from us.
I have a few more hands, Mayor. Anna Haley, you're now unmuted. Please state your name and address and make your comment.
Hi, yes, can you guys hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I'm at 135 North 5th Avenue. I had a question about what for this coming fiscal year the allocation is for police officer training, and in turn what the allocation is. You guys referred to the COPS Center, the Center on Policing at Rutgers. Whoever you ultimately hire, and in public comments I will definitely have a few thoughts and questions about that process. What the allocation is in the budget for that data analysis.
Okay, so I'm going to turn this either to the captain or to Elsie or the administrator who has she may have the budget lines in front of her.
I don't know if Captain has it handy, but we have, at least in the version, if you have the number handy, Chief, Captain, feel free to pipe in.
I do not have the number handy for the Rutgers Center on Policing. They were actually getting that proposal ready to send to us in regards to how much it would cost.
Well, what had you, I presumably it's not a blank check. So what's the range that you guys were targeting, as well as then the training budget allocated or proposed to be allocated?
I can speak to training, Mayor. We have, and just to be clear, this is a minutia point, but we can, within these different categories, we have the ability to flex a little bit. But what we were budgeting was sorry, I just want to make sure I'm looking at the right line. It's a big Excel spreadsheet. For training, 21,300, I believe was the number we were working with. And then we had a number of things kind of built into a line that would cover, but I know I had kind of put the connection on the Center for Policing. I just kind of made a bridge, and I was, without having a proposal to the captain's point, but I told them, could they work with us for something in the order of $15,000, at least as an initial project. So that's what I put in the budget for that.
And that's for what time period? The 15,000?
For this calendar year.
For this calendar year. Okay, just remind us all again here what the total police budget is, where you have 21,300 for training and 15K.
So that's part of, we have two categories. One is salaries and wages, and the other is the general category of other expenses.
The total budget of the
3.75, I'll just round it there, 3.75 million.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Next, with a hand raised, is our familiar Abby Stern-Cardinal. Please, you'll be allowed to speak. Restate your name and address, please.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, this is Abby Stern-Cardinal. I live on Harper Street. My concern is the way that some of these responses have gone regarding questions about the budget. It's my understanding that, this is a hearing about the budget, and it is very concerning to me that that the answers are that we don't have the budget in front of us, we don't have the line items. I think it is pretty obvious that this is a charged time, and nationally and locally we're very focused on police and police funding, and that really shouldn't have been unexpected. So it's a little concerning to me that these numbers weren't available, so that during this public. Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
I'm sorry for interrupting you. I just want to clarify something.
Sure.
This is a reporting on advertising the public hearing of the 2020 budget. It's not necessarily a review of the 2020 budget, just having the clerk report on advertising the public hearing of the 2020 budget.
Okay, so can you clarify when this budget will be finalized?
Terry, do you have that?
Well, Mayor, it's up for a vote this evening unless there's a reason not to proceed. That was the intent. We have an amendment. That's the second item there. It's mostly clerical in nature due to items identified by the Department of Community Affairs in their review of our budget. And the clerk will be prepared to read those. They don't impact the areas we're discussing. They don't change our overall picture here. So that was what was envisioned with this agenda this evening.
So the amendments are to the water and sewer budget?
No, they're amendments, and we have Lori Majeski, who's been working with me on the budget, so I'm going to ask her, as well as our auditor on the line. But I would categorize most of them as clerical issues. There was an item that we included within CAP that needed to be put out of CAP. I shouldn't be talking off the top of my head. Probably the most substantive being, and I'm jumping ahead to that item, was we had the incorrect amount for the library statutory amount. So we had to correct that. We did not change the overall allocation to the public library, but we had to correct the amount that's required by statute versus the amount that the borough pays, voluntarily. And I believe there were two more, but they were even more minutia. And I'm Lori, could you?
We had to change the breakdown of the state aid. They were just in different categories. The total
Right,
was.
we had them allocated. So again, the total number we had anticipated did not change. They just wanted to see the lines cleaned up. So they were really very high level adjustments to the budget that we're envisioning based on the review from the state.
And wait, we did have the budget presentation, I believe.
That was prior. We had at the introduction, we did a presentation. It's been posted on the website as the clerk reported, as well as the slides were up there as well. So And we've had our various sessions to discuss different aspects of the budget prior to the introduction. So obviously, some of the, so this has been a work in progress for a bit.
So as a follow-up, just if I can continue my comment, you guys know I've attended council meetings for years, and the budget process has always been very confusing to me in terms of when public can give any kind of feedback. I did see the presentation, and my understanding is this is the time for a public hearing for the budget. I know you can also postpone votes. Obviously, money is very important, that you have the funding for all of those, smaller things that maybe we're not talking about today. But this is important, and this is a national and local movement. You've seen the showing in town, and you've all stated your commitment to Black Lives Matter, which extends to the budget on this local level. So I do think it's a little bit of a kind of passive way around it to say, well, we presented it. This is something that can be looked at again. I know you said you'll work with Monique, and I think that's great. That's a little concerning to me as well, though, that it's just someone who happened to volunteer on the call. I know Monique is, very willing and happy to, but, it shouldn't just be someone who happens to volunteer on the call. There should be a, something like a commission. Maybe the Equity Commission should be involved in this, and should have been brought in the beginning if, once this became more of a concern, and once you all started to think about it and recognize it, and we all did. We all are, educating ourselves as we go. So, that does bring in the Equity Commission. There should be some civilian oversight. This is a very complicated process, and I think you need to work with us so that we can know when we can give input. It's hard to know on this end, even for someone who's watched these meetings for years now, to know when the appropriate time is and how we do that. I'm also, on the topic of the Equity Commission, I can talk about this more separately, but this seems like this is exactly what you would use it for, to look at it line by line and not just have the person who happened to volunteer on this call. So thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you.
Looks like we've got Michelle Ziapi, and I know I get your last name wrong. I apologize. Again, you're unmuted. Please restate your name and address.
Okay, thanks, Terry. Yeah, that's fine. My name is Michelle Rasiopi. I'm at 105 South 2nd, and I don't need to make this long at all. I was basically going to say along the lines of what Abby just said, and I really appreciate her comments. I'm really surprised that given the recent events, this was not looked at in advance of the meeting. I'm surprised that the mayor is trying to say she doesn't have the numbers in front of her. I mean, it's something you should have been expecting, and you should have been ready to address it, and ready to say that, we should, you may have, like Abby was saying, you may have thought about the budget, weeks or months ago, but you haven't approved it yet. And now we have a chance to look at it again in light of recent events and this movement that is going on across our country. And would really urge you not to approve the budget as it currently is, and to go back and look at things again. And there's no reason to rush it. We've waited this long already for a budget. There's no reason to rush it. So I think I would urge you to go back and reassess and look at those numbers line by line. Thank you.
Terry, can I just get confirmation from you? When are the budgets due into the DCA?
Lori, could you advise? And I also, I'm want to know, because we are delayed and there are some impacts on being able to do our estimated tax bills and other things that start to impact our operations. Could you give us the background there?
The state did extend the due dates for the budget adoptions to the end of May or the next meeting thereof, which is this one. Mm-hmm. This is going to be part of our best practices. If we don't adopt at this meeting, it could affect our state aid going down the line. We also have issues of temporary budgets. If we don't pass it tonight, we're out of our temporary budget and we have to wait till the next meeting to do another temporary budget. So there are a lot of ramifications if it is not passed this evening.
And I just want to say, as it pertains, I was trying to pull up my budget all along, find my hard copy of my budget so I could answer some of the line by line questions that's being asked. And but it's not just the budget that we have for the PD. It's not just the police department. There's dispatchers involved, emergency services, LoSAP, courts, fire, first aid. There is a lot that encompasses. It's not all going to it's under public safety, but it's a public safety, a global public safety budget that we're looking at.
Okay.
Sorry, I've been searching, looking around for my budget. I can't find it. Can't put it on my finger right now.
We do still have some hands up, Mayor.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay. Andrew Z, please state your name and address for the record.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
This is Andrew Zappa, 131 Johnson Street. Thank you guys for all your service. It's appreciated. My first item is, in light of the recent comments you guys just made about the budget timeline, it seems like you have your work cut out for you, Mayor, trying to meet Monique's request to analyze the budget and get back to her tonight so you know whether or not you can meet the Black Lives Matter request. So, that's something that you guys might need to keep in mind. It sounds like it's going to be a late night for you. The second item, and this is for you, Terry, you mentioned a $15,000 number. Was that the number for the analysis of the data related to the police stops and new data related to the use of force? I wanted to get some clarity on that number.
The truth is I'm not as versed. I know I put the number in because I didn't want it to get dropped off. The captain may be able to speak to the scope that was being pursued with the Rutgers Center. I can't recall if it was stops or use of force. I just don't know the answer.
It was motor vehicle stops.
Okay.
And that was the $15,000, sir?
Yes.
And again, it was a guesstimate on my part.
And that's based on data for the last 2 years?
This would be data that we started collecting June of 2019 up until today's date.
Okay. So that would, I don't know what rate per hour they would be quoting you, but if you figure what an IT cost is going to be for a good data analysis, it's probably about $150 an hour. That's going to give you about 100 hours worth of work to analyze all that data. I don't know if that sounds like a reasonable estimate. So I would probably ask you guys to maybe revisit that line to make sure you get the best information out of that analyst, because it's super important for what's going on in our state, our country, and our world. And you guys have a responsibility to this township to make sure you do the right job. So that's all I have to say. I appreciate your service, and that's it. Thanks very much.
Going to call on, I guess I'm just going to go in the order that they're appearing in the queue.
How many more are there?
I look at, right now there's 6 hands, but it seems like the longer we wait, more hands go up. But we've got 7 now. See, I jinxed it. Monique Coleman has, do you want me to go to people who haven't spoken? I just don't know what the rule of thumb is.
I think we should give everybody a chance to speak, so come back to someone if.
Okay, so forgive me, Monique, I'll come back. I believe next up was Elena Gerstmann. I can't recall if we called on you before. Your name is familiar, but I apologize. You've been unmuted, Elena. Hello? Elena Gerstmann, would you like to?
Yes, can you hear me now?
Oh, I can.
Okay, I just had to get my button. So this is Elena Gerstmann. I live at 127 North 6th Avenue in Highland Park. Question on the budget. So it's a bit confusing. So it seems like you are going to vote on it today, which means that the commitment to look at it can't really happen. So I think that this is going to require some creativity, and maybe this is from General Counsel to create some type of motion. And what I would recommend is the possibility of tabling the public safety portion of it, so you can pass the budget to keep 75% of our borough going, and then maybe even write a motion of an addendum to that that says that anything that needs to keep going on in order for people to get paid can happen, but that you will look at the full public safety police budget in X amount of time, and maybe that's 2 months' time, in order to really account for the work of Black Lives Matter and the Obama pledge that Mayor, you said that you were upholding.
So I have a question for Lori. The deadline for approval of the budget is what date?
To be within state guidelines, it would be today's meeting.
Okay, and if we vote on a budget for the total dollar amount, what is our flexibility in being able to move some things from line to line?
You can move it in November when transfers are allowed, the last 2 months of the year.
So 6 months from now is basically what you're saying.
It's what, 4 months from now?
4 months?
It's
okay.
June now.
So
4 or 5 months from now.
Okay. So then if, first of all, we have committed as a council not to exceed the bottom line number of this budget for this year. And so if we adopted the budget with the total dollar amount, we can still 4 months from now move some things around. Is that correct?
Starting November 1st, you can start making transfers, yes.
Okay.
So I would ask, thank you for that clarification, Mayor. I would ask you to then maybe pass a motion today saying that the council and you, the mayor, will definitely look at it and will make that transfer come November, and hold yourself accountable to a vote that you take today to actually make those transfers after you review the police budget and the public safety budget.
So I don't know, again, I have to go to guidance from the finance people or the borough attorney. Is it possible to pass pass a budget and still have an ordinance that says we're going to review it to make changes in November?
Mayor, oh, go ahead, Terry.
Oh, no, Lucille, you're an attorney. I won't jump in.
No, I was just going to suggest, I don't think you have to adopt an ordinance saying that you're going to make changes in November tonight. I think that you make a commitment to review the budget, the way the money's been allocated over the next few months, and that you'll make changes in November that are consistent with the decisions that are made. You adopt the budget as is tonight, but changes can be made based on how much gets spent. And so if you begin to make those changes in the way the money gets spent between now and then, there'll be money that can be reallocated and shifted around, et cetera.
Okay.
And Mayor, I would just want to make one point, if I may. We talked about this at the presentation a little bit, but we know there's likely to be, we know there's unknowns about revenues, in terms of where they're going to land. So we're already, I just want I guess the members of the public that are paying attention to know that we are already looking at lines in this budget and thinking about that November for other reasons outside of what's been identified during the hearing, because of either shortfalls that we may have that we need to make up for elsewhere, or to be ready for those eventualities. So this would be consistent with that as well. So we could probably bring those things together. Okay. And every department is aware of the fact that, and we've had some preliminary conversations about expenses kind of in the immediate term, but then more of the, as you like to call, the black sky scenarios, where we're even looking at staffing and other things depending on how the economy and everything else is looking going into next year.
Okay. Thanks for that clarification. Okay, then I'm going to move that we make a motion to close the public hearing.
I guess, point of order, I don't know. We still do have some raised hands.
I'm
So would you like me to continue to call?
Yeah, just as long as people recognize that we're hoping they're going to talk about something that hasn't already been discussed regarding the budget.
Okay.
If I may, Mayor, a point of order. I noticed the time is 8:50, and under the rules, the discussion on general public doesn't extend beyond 9 without a vote. So I would move that we extend discussions past 9 o'clock.
Well, I would ask that we hold that motion, till we get closer to that time, and then we can, if you wouldn't mind, Phil, if we need to make a motion to extend the time for the second public comment if necessary.
Fair enough.
Okay, so go ahead, Terry.
Okay, I'm going to call on Anna Rose. We're going to unmute you at this point. You now are free to speak. Please give your name and address.
Hi, this is Natalie Levine. I'm using my partner's Zoom account.
Okay, sorry about that. That's why you have to say your name.
Yes, Natalie Levine, 1625 Parker Road. I didn't realize that public comment was limited to things that have not already been said in the public comment, so I hope that
to the budget, excuse me.
It's about the budget, but Mayor Gale had mentioned she only wanted people to speak about things that hadn't already been said. So I hope my framing will be different enough to be okay here. I just wanted to say that I hope the reason that the budget vote has been put off until the latest possible date allowed by the state is because the council was considering the many extraordinary circumstances of the public health crisis that is the COVID-19 epidemic. And I appreciate, I'm new to Highland Park, I'm new to these council meetings, but I have to assume that you've taken the time to think about current events, how they've affected the budget. You put a lot of time into reviewing the line by line items in light of that public health crisis. And I wanted to point out that racism is also a public health crisis, as many of us have been aware for a long time. Maybe some of us are just learning about that now, but as we've become aware of that public health crisis in our community and across our nation, I hope that that you all will consider postponing the budget decision, particularly on the public safety portion of the budget, until you've considered line by line with the community how best to proceed there. And I'd like to cede the rest of my 3 minutes to Monique Coleman, since there was a question about whether she would be called on again.
Oh, I was going to call on her. I just was trying to give those of you who hadn't had an opportunity. So no worries. There's the same limitation on this hearing. The next up is Colin Marks. You've been unmuted. Please state your name and address. Hi, I think you may have yourself muted.
Oh, hello. Hello, sorry. I may want to speak, so I do have a couple minute statement, but after I might want to explain the broader context of how I've come to begin saying this. So 1 second. So there's oh yeah, my name is Colin Marks and I live at 443 Graham Street. I'm reading a statement from a particularly frustrated Edison resident. He was wondering about
excuse me, Colin, I just want to clarify that this is about the budget issues.
Yes.
Correct? Okay.
Yes, it's in regards to the Edison PD and their support at the protests, if they were hired to be there, and why it was believed to be necessary to bring them on board if they were paid to be present at the BLM protests, and if there were not enough Highland Park officers on scene, are they understaffed?
Okay, I'm going to ask either Councilwoman Foster-Dublin or Captain Curbelo to respond to the budgeting for additional police, if that was necessary.
Okay, okay, Joe, you're gonna speak?
I'll just touch briefly on Edison. Edison was not paid to be there. They actually sent us several auxiliary officers to help us with traffic.
And
thank you very much.
And for the Highland Park officers, the officers that we had all officers that came out that day, all Highland Park officers, and they volunteered their time to be there because they felt it was this important. So there was no overtime occurred because they volunteered to be there to help close the streets and everything else that we needed.
I thank you very much, and I would hope to have the opportunity to explain how I've come to explain the stance of a Edison resident. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, next up is Ethan Schoolman. You've been unmuted. Please restate your name and address.
Okay, hi. This is Ethan Schoolman. I'm at 423 Harrison Avenue. And yes, similar or slightly different, taking something different, slightly different direction. I just want to say that I think that given that the timing for maybe, doing a wholesale breakdown of the budget and shifting the lines around, the timing may not be great for that right now, given the state constraints. Another step the council could take would be to commit in the form of a resolution or something like this to having a really transparent, public, community engaged process for next year's budget. Even, and this is, beyond shifting things around in November, right? I mean, you have a year to build up now, commit to taking taking several months, going through the important commissions, the relevant commissions, the community groups, the public figures who exist in Highland Park, and could really, and everyone could benefit from having a process where everyone sits down at the table, looks at the line by line, talks about how much we're spending on policing, how much we're spending on other kinds of services and education, on services for our youth, public health. And so we all have to think about those hard decisions together. It's one thing to say, defund this, fund that. Nothing to say, well, here's how much we are actually spending. How much are we willing to take from one pot, put into another? What can we reasonably expect our neighbors to agree to who may feel differently about these issues? And I think, similar to other debates in the past, I think even if we don't always agree on what ends up happening, I think having that kind of transparent, involved process improves the outcome. So I think even if you can't, do the line by line the way some folks would prefer, and perhaps I might prefer this year, I think committing publicly in writing, certainly verbally, to a really engaged, lengthy, public, community engaged process for next year's budget would be really helpful and show that that the council is committing to action as well as to the words, which we all do appreciate. Thank you.
Thank you, Ethan.
All right, we went through all the new speakers. I'm going to go back to Monique Coleman at this point. Monique, you've been unmuted. Hello? Oh, now you have to unmute yourself.
Okay, great. Here I am. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep. Okay. I just want to reiterate here, because since I asked my question and sort of raise this issue of looking at the budget, specifically the policing budget, there has been, I think, a very strong stance taken by many concerned members of the community that we need to act now. And when I say we, I'm really speaking of you, council and mayor, in coordination with stakeholders in the community. Act now, not wait till the next budget, not to pass this budget and then say that you're going to come back in November and do a line-by-line consideration of possibly reallocating funds. Again, I'm urging you, based not only on my concern, but the concerns expressed by many community members, and to tonight take a strong stand, postpone the vote on this budget, or at least the public safety portion of it, and immediately begin to do the line-by-line analysis that probably should have been already done and considering the events of the past couple of weeks, and to engage, as others have said, the community stakeholders. Specifically, HPEC would be the perfect body to be involved in this this work with you. I agree wholeheartedly with being transparent as possible. And I just I'm so frustrated, beyond frustrated and beyond, I guess, disappointed. Oh gosh, disappointed that again, you can state this pledge so strong and so loudly and so publicly and boldly in front of hundreds of people that were gathered here last week for a rally, a phenomenal outpouring. But yet when we talk about what Black Lives Matter really stands for in terms of the concrete measures that people who say they commit to Black Lives Matter have to do, specifically people in leadership positions. The ball is now in your court to act, and to act now with the swiftness. Take it, do it. It's going to be okay if you say we can, at least for tonight, postpone a portion of this budget to do the kind of hard work that we need to answer the rallying cry nationally and in our own community. So think creatively, be bold. This cannot wait until next year's budget. This cannot wait until November. Thank you.
We have one last hand. It looks like it's Rob Scott. You're unmuted. Please, you know the drill.
What Monique said, you guys need to do something tonight. I'm a little shocked, and I think much of the rest of the public is a little shocked that we're here tonight and we find out that, oh, today's the deadline, nothing can be done. And we find out after we're sort of offered a promise that the mayor's going to look at the budget line by line. So I think what many of the members of the public are asking, and I would ask all the members of the public who are here to, why don't you go ahead and raise your hand if you want the council to do something formal about the budget tonight, either not pass it, not vote, or make a formal resolution that they're going to reconsider the public safety portion of the budget over the next couple months.
Mayor, if I may just mention one thing, and Lori, you correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think we have the ability to approve one piece of the budget and not another. So I just want to kind of put that off the table for the purpose of the conversation.
Yeah, I've seen the borough attorney nod her head yes. Part of the issue for us as a governing body is we have to abide the laws of the state of New Jersey. And if I'm being told that we have deadlines for when we have to submit a budget, if we miss the deadlines, that means that we might, and Lori, you can correct me if I'm wrong, lose out on funding for the municipality, which would have a negative impact on everything that we do. What we can do is what was suggested earlier, which is commit to making the changes we feel are necessary. We can start working on those changes now. They cannot happen until November 1st. But those are the things that we can do legally in the state of New Jersey. Correct me if I'm wrong, Lori?
That is correct. As long as the funds are available, you can make those transfers starting November 1st.
Right.
Lori, are we allowed to make amendments, or are we is that separate from transfers?
That's different. An amendment is before your budget is adopted.
That's why for example, tonight we have those items we just discussed. And just to,
So what happens if our, a high paying employee resigns? So what happens with those funds that we budgeted for that? Like we wouldn't be able, that would still go in that budget? We wouldn't be able to move $100,000 plus salary somewhere? Like, how does that work?
What Lori said, basically, let's say we had an unforeseen, something that we're not going to need the money for, like somebody retired, we didn't see it coming.
Yeah.
The policy would be, and we've had versions of this happen, in smaller ways, where that's something goes either into surplus at the end of the day if we don't spend it, Or in November, if there's another use that we think it's appropriate to, or let's say we budgeted more than we needed for utilities, but that doesn't happen very often, we can move that money. The state allows those movements in budget items, and you guys have to approve that first. That's those transfers we're doing at the end of the year, because there are always unforeseen expenses and unforeseen non-expenses. And we do build some of the unknown into some of these numbers. So after the budget's adopted, we can make those changes, but not until November. That's what the statute allows. In terms of the not adopting, that is the state guide. If you read the budget notice, that, the meeting most near this May deadline is the date by which we would vote. And yes, the COVID situation did delay. We were teed up to have a hearing before everything happened. So that was part of why we're here. And it does that's one of the questions. There's this best practice checklist where the community's evaluated on a bunch of different measures, and your overall score has to be a certain grade, basically, and so that you can get your full state aid. Whether or not failure to adopt in this case tonight would impact that immediately, I can't say, because I don't know how we're going to score at the end of the year until we get through it.
So what about asking for a one-time, we go to the state, the department that we're submitting, and we ask for a one-time, we can do that, ask for a one-time exception and see what's the feedback from there.
So Stephanie, I just want to remind you that it would not be different. It would not be unusual, is the better word, for us to move things around and vote on a change in the budget. And I guess it's November is the date. So we have worked really hard to try to get the municipality out of the bind it was in a couple of years ago with all the negative budgeting and reporting. I think it's important for us as a municipality, for everybody who lives here and pays taxes here, to be able to get the most that we can get out of the state for all of the line items. And what I'm going to ask the council to do tonight is to continue continue this vote on the motion to make the amendments as they stand, but to commit to working on looking at where we can move things to address the issues that have come out from the Black Lives Matter movement and the incident that occurred in Minneapolis. I think that's the best way for us to handle this, and it would not be atypical for us to move things in that November period.
No, I know, like, this budget, this was a flat budget, and I get it. Like, we did work hard on this. School board members came in and we had a whole presentation about 2 meetings ago. But it doesn't hurt asking after, let's say we do vote on it tonight, and we ask for a one-time asking, will this affect our state aid? If they say yes, then we're left with November. And then I guess we just have to remember in November. And I know that's when we normally vote on a lot of transfers that are from one commission or so as well. But we can ask.
Well, I hear you. But having lived through how we were treated by the state because of our past mistakes, and the fact that we are on their radar, I'm a little concerned about that. Lori, you can tell me if I'm wrong in worrying about that.
Well, it's again, as Terry said, there's the best practices that comes out, I think it's August, September time. And one of the questions is, have you introduced on time and have you adopted on time? And there are other questions as well. I think there's like 40 questions. And based
It's
upon
actually
the number
longer
of
now, Lori.
answers,
The best
based upon the number of answers, that determines what your state aid, if you're going to get your full amount or they're going to withhold it. So you're not going to know until you actually answer it. But you have other considerations. You have to keep the operations of the town going. And right now, you're still working on a temporary budget, and a lot of your accounts don't have funds available to continue. We were planning on the budget being adopted, so we were going to add the monies there. So if you don't adopt, you now have to wait until the next meeting, and the funds are not available to continue in certain areas. That's the consideration.
All right, so I'm going to ask the council to keep this all in mind as we come to this vote. Terry, can we move the vote?
Yeah, but that, and I get that, but that is a problem. Like because we waited so late, like we must say yes. If the budget fails tonight, it is a disaster for the town because our accounts is so thin.
Right.
And it probably is because of COVID, because I know we normally pass budgets like probably a whole month, but that's a.
Yeah, and this July date is a delay. I mean, they gave us extra time.
So
okay.
Mayor, where we were, just sorry, I know we got along a trail. Everybody kind of raised their hand. So I don't know if we have any other comments on the, on the budget.
I'm sorry, everybody. We have so much more business to conduct. I'm going to ask for the council for a motion to close the public hearing. And then if, we're going to have to vote on these resolutions. We are not going to forget what we talked about today, whatever the vote is. But we have a lot more to do, and to Councilman Phil George's point, I think we have to conclude a meeting by 10 o'clock. Is that correct? Borough Attorney, is that what, I believe 10 o'clock is the time we have to conclude a meeting.
I believe so, yes, Mayor.
All right, so public, I know you want to talk. And I feel terrible doing this, but if I don't do it, we're going to run into other problems with having to stop our work at 10 o'clock. So I'm going to ask for a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Joan, I need your, or Borough Attorney, is that a all in favor, or is that a, sorry?
Roll call.
Roll call. Okay, roll call, please, Joan.
Councilman Fine?
Yes.
Councilwoman Foster-Dublin?
Yes.
Councilman George?
Yes.
Councilman Hale?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kim Chohan?
Yes, and I just want to say to the public that's here, in November, make sure that you do, no, not even November.
Before.
2 months before that, make sure you start reminding us and hold our feet to the fire, especially if COVID-20 comes back around and we're all sitting here again, because there's just always like something else happens on council, and we're like, it's like we're putting out this fire today and we're putting out the fire tomorrow. So that's where we need you guys' help to, keep this at the top of our minds.
Yeah,
so,
and to that point, Stephanie, that's a good point. I'm going, because budget falls under the admin committee, I'm going to ask Terry to make a note to schedule an admin committee as soon as possible. Okay, did we finish the roll call? I'm sorry.
You did.
Okay.
No, you didn't finish the vote.
Yeah, we did.
Stephanie?
Stephanie.
Yeah, I said yes. Oh no, Elsie, yeah, Elsie, I guess.
I called Elsie. Councilwoman Foster-Dublin, you're second.
I just want to add that, yes, I want to vote on moving the budget forward, but it's imperative that we know that in November we have an opportunity to look at the pass-throughs and what have you and what we have left. But I would like to start working now on some of the ideas that came through Monique and others, and start seeing what we can do and looking at a budget if we were to look at some of these social issues and see, maybe get a team together with her and start looking at some of the issues that she brought up tonight. And then knowing that we're going to have an opportunity in November to start pricing everything the costing out everything, what that program would look like that we're talking about. And so when we get that opportunity in November, see how much we can put into that.
Matt, you had your hand up.
I just want to add that I think maybe one way of moving forward is that with the admin committee, to set up a budget revision structure. There could be a small working group, a working group of people that would look at the budget from now through November and try and identify the things that you have said that you would do, Mayor, that you would look for. And so I think that perhaps the mechanism for making this real and happen, rather than sort of relying on of us or others to get it, is if we were to have the admin committee create a revisions committee that we could look and see. And it may not be possible. I don't want to, it may not be fiscally prudent. It may not, but it may, right? And so I think that if we had a structure from the admin committee, obviously with public safety, obviously with the mayor, obviously with members of the community, that might allow us to take a strong look at this rather than a quick look at it, to take a steady look at it from now through November. So I would suggest that.
Good point.
I agree. And I've written down the 3 major topics that was discussed tonight about some of the things that we need to look at. So I would like to meet with some of the members of the committee that brought these up and see how we can start creating some kind of a structure for that.
Okay, good.
Can I just add something as well? Can I, Joan? Sorry.
I'm just kidding.
I also don't want to, because I went to my mailbox, and Terry, I have it from March, where you put it in my mailbox, the summary for the budget. I don't want to give false hope to the residents as well, but like over $3 million is just salary and wages. And that's like police union stuff. That's something that, a lot of municipalities, when you're listening to them, we don't really have control over this. That's the union now. So you gotta think about it in our seat now. So you want us to get sued and deplete our budget on a lawsuit? You think about this from here. You look at the federal level, look at the state level now as well. So I just want everyone to know what we're dealing with as well. And that's it.
Thank you, Stephanie. All right, I'm going to move on. May I have a motion to adopt or reject a resolution to approve amendments to the 2020 municipal and water and sewer budget, please?
I'll also move it.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
1 second, I'm supposed to read the amendments.
Right. Oh.
Sorry. I don't want to put you all to sleep, but I'm sorry. Whereas the local municipal budget for the year 2020 was introduced on May 5th, whereas the public hearing on said budget has been held as advertised on June 9th, whereas the mayor and council desire to amend said budget. Now therefore be it resolved by the mayor and council of the Borough of Highland Park that the following amendments to the approved budget for 2020 be made. The numbers I'm going to read are current from. The first number I read is from, the second number is to. Miscellaneous revenues, state aid without offsetting appropriations, consolidated municipal property tax relief aid, $90,633. to $24,612. Energy receipts tax, $890,914 to $956,935. Local tax for municipal purposes, including reserve for uncollected taxes, $12,925,562.81 to $12,998,924.70. Minimum library tax, $535,011.34 to $461,649.45. General appropriations, operations within caps, salary and wages, $5,000 to $0. Other expenses, $25,000, $0. Total operations within caps, including contingent, $11,870,128 to $11,840,128. Details, salary and wages, $7,950,000 to $6,995,950. Other expenses, including contingent, $4,869,178 to $4,844,178. Total general appropriations for municipal purposes within caps, $13,596,839, $13,566,839. Operations excluded from caps, coronavirus mitigation, salary and wages, $0 to $5,000. Other expenses, $0 to $25,000. Total other operations excluded from caps, $1,157,979, $1,187,979. Total operations excluded from caps, $1,365,110.75, $1,395,110.75. Detail, salary and wages, $0, $5,000. Other expenses, $1,365,110.75 to $1,390,110.75. Total general appropriations excluded from caps, $3,089,262.88, $3,119,262.88. Total general appropriations for municipal purposes within caps, $13,596,839, $13,566,839. Operations excluded from caps, total operations excluded from caps, other operations, I'm sorry, $1,157,979, $1,187,979. Total operations excluded from caps, $1,365,110.75, $1,395,110.75. I'm done.
Okay. Then may I have a motion to adopt or reject the resolution for 2020 municipal and water and sewer budget as amended on final reading by title?
Mayor, I think you have to take a vote on the amendment first.
Yes.
Okay. So the amendment that Joan just read, you have a resolution to approve the amendment to the 2020 municipal and water and sewer budget.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Fine?
Yes.
Councilwoman Foster-Dublin?
Yes.
Councilman George?
Yes.
Councilman Hale?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kim Chohan?
Yes.
Okay. Now, may I have a motion to adopt or reject the resolution to adopt the 2020 municipal and water and sewer budget as amended on final reading by title?
So moved.
Move it.
Roll call, please.
there a second?
Yeah.
Second.
Okay.
Councilman Fine,
Yes.
Councilwoman Foster-Dublin,
Yes.
Councilman George,
I'll save my comments for now. With regard to the budget, it has to be adopted as a whole. It has to be adopted now. It's been extended under COVID-19. It's been reviewed and presented a number of times so that everyone has had a time to look at it. The defund the police movement, however, is different. And it's not that we're out of time. We are at a turning point where we must do something. I totally agree. I support the defund the police as it is being defined moment by moment, hour by hour, by the people discussing it as to what does it really mean. It doesn't mean cutting the budget alone. It means looking at the fundamental structure of policing in a community that has needs, wants, people, differences, and disagreements. That can't be decided by holding the budget for just a little while to vote. We must make a decision about fundamentally, we talk about Highland Park and its diversity. We talk about Highland Park and its equity. And we talk about Highland Park and its disparate parts. I talk about that all the time because I'm part of those disparate parts. But we are at a point where we have to stop. We have time for budgets. But we are at a turning point that is irrelevant to time. If we don't turn the corner and start and move in a different direction, we are not going to change. Now, we may fundamentally find that we do not need that much change. We may not need what Camden needs, and Camden did change. They restructured by bringing in the county, and they restructured by technology and other changes, but they went to a real fundamental change in community policing. And yet other towns, other cities haven't. We need to know what we need to do. When we look at restructuring the police department, looking at its fundamental viability for our town, that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about defunding them. As Stephanie pointed out, I did the calculations. I have the budget up. It's 5.5% is for incidentals, and the balance is wages and salary by collective bargaining agreement. We can't do that. And we'd end, if we decided to fire half the people and use the money for public purposes that everyone wants, we'd end up paying it back in the millions of dollars in lawsuits that we would get stuck with. This year we tried harder. This was one of the first years in my recollection, and even when my wife was council person, where we had much more of a dialogue on budget than we've had before. And it's the first time, I think, in the last 10 years where the school board has actually come to discuss with us, because many of the issues are school board budgets. We also added $40,000 this year for an OEM coordinator to make sure that all of these functions, police, fire, ambulance, coordinate and have policies of fairness, diversity, and the appropriate behavioral codes for all of them. And we started that already. That's part of this budget. That's in addition to the $170,000 in incidental. So I say that by the next working session, what we need to have out of administration or anywhere else where it comes from, we have to have some type of organization to look at this fundamental restructuring and defunding as to what it means to us. I don't care what it means to anybody else. New Brunswick, Edison, Philadelphia, Minneapolis, Los Angeles. I don't care. I live in Highland Park. You live in Highland Park. This is where it counts, and we can be an example for that. But it has to start here. So I would like to see if we can't bring forward at the next work session something that addresses these issues, not just the budget, so that we're in a position to look at that. And we need to understand, all of us, including the population listening, that this is a hard process because you have fundamental fixed costs to run this borough. and you have substantial costs and problems in infrastructure, in the water and the sewer system, that we're also going to be dealing with. So if you want to wave a magic wand and double your taxes, maybe we can address some of these issues. Otherwise, it's going to be hard work and it's going to be realistic. We are not going to pull pie out of the sky concepts. And this watchword here, we are going to have to be realistic in doing this. I vote yes.
Thank you. Joan? Joan, you're muted.
Councilman Hale?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kim Chohan?
Yes.
Okay, clerk, could you please report on introduction of renewable government energy aggregation ordinance for consideration of passage on first reading by title?
An ordinance of the Borough of Highland Park, County of Middlesex, State of New Jersey, establishing a government energy aggregation program and amending the code of the Borough of Highland Park by adding a new chapter 84, has been introduced in writing by the Public Works and Public Utilities Committee for consideration of passage on first reading by title.
May I have a motion to adopt or reject and advertise the ordinance on first reading by title?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Councilman Fine?
Yes.
Councilwoman Foster-Dublin?
Elsie, you're muted.
Yes.
Councilman George?
This is excellent work by administration. Thank you, Terry. Yes.
Councilman Hale?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kim Chohan?
Yes.
Okay, clerk, could you please report on introduction of capital ordinance for consideration of passage on first reading by title?
Capital ordinance providing for purchase and installation of public electrical vehicle charging stations in and by the Borough of Highland Park, County of Middlesex, State of New Jersey, appropriating $25,000 to pay the cost thereof, has been duly introduced by the Finance Committee for consideration of passage on first reading by title.
Okay, may I have a motion to adopt or reject and advertise the ordinance on first reading by title?
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Fine?
Yes.
Councilwoman Foster-Dublin?
Yes.
Councilman George?
Yes.
Councilman Hale?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kim Chohan?
Yes.
Okay, moving on to the consent agenda now. May I have a motion to adopt the following items, number 15 through number 22?
Motion.
So moved.
Okay, did you get the first and second, Joan?
Got it.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Fine?
Yes.
Councilwoman Foster-Dublin?
Yes.
Councilman George?
Yes.
Councilman Hale?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kim Chohan?
Yes.
Okay. Resolution number 23. May I have a motion to adopt or reject the resolution to acknowledge and condemn the police actions in Minneapolis that led to the death of Mr. George Floyd?
Mayor, would it be possible to have that resolution read, whether it be by the clerk or yourself?
Okay. Joan, do you have it?
Yes, I do.
Could you please read the resolution?
Whereas the Borough of Highland Park, a community of ethnic, economic, and educational diversity, sits at the heart of Middlesex County and at the crossroads of the state of New Jersey. And whereas the borough takes great pride in its diversity and maintains an atmosphere of honor, respect, and opportunity for every resident and visitor, regardless of age, race, creed, religion, origin, sexual orientation, or gender identification. And whereas the borough makes great effort to ensure that its elected leadership, department heads, and appointed boards and committees reflect the fabric of the community at large, thus ensuring that the many voices that make up the One Highland Park are represented. And whereas the New Jersey State Association of Chiefs of Police has pursued the concept and development of a voluntary statewide law enforcement accreditation program to acknowledge law enforcement departments that have implemented and maintained rigorous policies and procedures that have been deemed sound and operationally effective. And whereas as an accredited agency, as well as a visible department with respect to the public, sworn members of the Highland Park Police Department receive continuous training throughout their career, which includes de-escalation, diversity, and interpersonal skills. And whereas the Highland Park Police Department is also committed to recruiting and developing a workforce that represents the diversity of the community it serves. And whereas recent demonstrations and protests across America, sparked by the video of the tragic death of Mr. George Floyd at the hands of 4 Minneapolis, Minnesota police officers, challenge public safety organizations and elected leadership across the country to respond as concerns are raised by residents within the communities. Now therefore be it resolved that the Highland Park Mayor, Borough Council, and the Highland Park Police Department in no uncertain terms condemn the actions that led to the death of Mr. George Floyd. And be it further resolved that the Mayor, Borough Council, and the Highland Park Police Department will remain committed to the morally, ethically, and lawfully fair treatment of borough residents, employees, and visitors. And be it further resolved that the Mayor, Borough Council, and the Highland Park Police Department will review police use of force policies, will engage the community by including a diverse range of input, experiences, and stories in the review, report the findings of the review to the community and seek feedback, and follow the Attorney General's guidelines regarding police use of force policies, plus share our community's input, suggestions, and recommendations with the Attorney General's office. Be it finally resolved that the Mayor, Borough Council, and the Highland Park Police Department will continue to take the necessary steps to maintain policies and procedures to ensure that residents, employees, and visitors have adequate channels of communication and processes to bring all matters that go into question the fair, impartial, and just treatment of anyone without fear of retribution or reprisal.
Thank you. Now, may I have a motion to adopt?
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Fine?
Yes.
Councilwoman Foster-Dublin?
Yes.
Councilman George?
Yes.
Councilman Hale?
I apologize. One of the lines in there is that it says that we're an accredited police agency.
No, it says
No, that was taken out.
Okay, I saw that was in an earlier draft, and I just want to make sure
Yeah, no, I made sure that was taken out.
Okay, then I absolutely support this amendment, and I just wanted to make sure that it was factually correct on that. So if it is, then I'll vote yes.
Councilwoman Kim Chohan?
Yes.
okay. Thank you, Council. I am appointing the following people: Scott Brustein to the Arts Commission, Dr. Norma Bowe and Daniel Moritz to the Board of Health, Ryan Potter to the Recreation Advisory Committee. May I have a motion to confirm?
Motion to confirm.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Fine?
Yes.
Councilwoman Foster-Dublin?
Yes.
Councilman George?
Yes.
Councilman Hale?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kim Chohan?
Yes.
Okay, now I'm going to, before we go into the next public comment session, because we're required that this second public comment session end at 9 p.m., I'm going to ask the council for a motion to allow us to have an additional 10-minute public comment, limiting each person to 3 minutes.
I'm sorry, Mayor, point of clarification. we're past 9 o'clock.
Right.
And it's 9:40, and then we're supposed to only go to till 10. Are you asking that the second public comment session run till 10?
Correct.
And then we're going to table the work session for the next meeting?
No, there's 2 items on the work session I know that we need to discuss. So we'd have to, after the public comment, we would have to do another motion to extend the work session for another 10 minutes.
Okay, I just clarifying. So the motion then is to extend public discussion till 10 o'clock.
Correct.
So moved.
Second.
Second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. So now, Terry, I'm going to turn it over to you. Public, again, if you'd like to speak, please press *9 on your phone keypad or on your computer or smartphone, select raise hand. Borough administrator will call on people by their name or the last 4 digits of their phone. I need you to give me your name and your home address before you speak.
All right. And I am now hosting as well as doing this, so just bear with me. It looks like we have Michelle, I'm just going to say Michelle from the Historic Commission, because I got a blank on her name. She dropped her name. She dropped her hand. I'm going to allow the person whose number ends in 8735 and ask that all comments be courteous, please.
Hello?
You're now able to speak. You have 3 minutes.
Crystal Macropolis. According to Lozman versus Riviera Beach, Florida, the Highland Park Town Council violated the Sunshine Law by not allowing me to speak and ask Captain Garbello a question about the budget. Also, call the police if you see suspicious activity. Don't listen to your councilwoman. Joe Biden's friend, the Grand Master of the KKK, he has photos with him. He's your candidate. Your candidate, Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton, and Obama supported neo-Nazis in Ukraine and ISIS in Syria. And I would like the Democratic Town Council, how can they fight racism when they're part of this systemic system of racism? Mayor Mittler and Councilwoman Foster-Dublin and the Highland Park Police Department broke Governor Murphy's orders and allowed over 25 people to mass gather. I'm going to be writing something about that. I'm going to write a report on that. But I would like the mayor to explain to me why does she need to always interrupt me, violate my speaking time? You guys should be ashamed for doing that. Shame on you, Mayor, for using the George Floyd tragedy to promote your left-wing radical agenda. If it was a real protest, they'd be protesting outside your home. I believe it's somewhere behind the Highland Park High School. They'd be protesting the government. They'd be protesting in front of the police department. It wouldn't be a sponsored event by Captain Jose Curbelo or the mayor of Highland Park. Last time you said we can never speak about anything unless it's Highland Park matters. Yet today we're speaking about you passing a resolution about George Floyd, and I understand that. But this happened in another state now. Why don't you guys pass a resolution confirming that the Jewish Holocaust is a historical event and the Greek-Armenian genocide? I mean, if you're going to pass a resolution on that, you can also pass a resolution on this. Don't you agree? And I would like the lawyer to clarify, lawyer, is that okay for you guys to just interrupt someone in the middle of their speaking time, or to tell someone, I mean, that's real stupid to say to someone, oh, we're speaking about Highland Park budget. Excuse me, I called into Highland Park, didn't I? Lawyer? Can you guys hear me?
The mayor is allowed to ask speakers questions. sir.
No, you cannot interrupt people in the middle of their time. I was trying to ask Captain Jose Corbello, and she kept interrupting me because she was asking a real stupid question. She said something a real stupid
You're at
statement.
your 3 minutes, and we do have a number of people who wish to speak before we have to close. And excuse me, Mayor, that was very offensive. I apologize, I didn't get him in time.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear it.
Good.
It's a good thing.
Yeah. So the next person with their hand raised is, excuse me, I'm trying to multitask unsuccessfully, is Mike Rowland. I've unmuted you. Please restate your name and address.
Mike Rowland, New Jersey. So before you stated that you didn't like how Christos was speaking, that quote unquote, you can't speak that way. That's a violation of the First Amendment. You violated Christos' time to be able to speak. How come there's no videos for the attendees? Crickets. Okay. Is the captain still available?
I am here.
Okay. Do you guys have a log for body cameras when they take them out?
All the body cameras are individually assigned to officers, and when they turn on and off, they log into the system, correct?
Okay. Who's your you mean law enforcement officer?
The Chief Abrams.
Okay. Again, for Lucille, the First Amendment gives you a right, or gives us the right to be offensive. You don't have a constitutional right not to be offended. So him cursing you out is perfectly legal, and it's a violation of the law for you to disrupt him, hang up on him, mute him when you don't like what's being said. It's a violation of the Sunshine Law. What do you have to say for that, Lucille?
Okay. Borough Attorney, is this permitted?
People do not need to be allowed to curse.
That's the law.
Or other members of the public during, or other members of the council during the meeting. Mr. Rowland, I didn't stop him. I didn't cut him off. I didn't, turn off his phone.
Terry did.
I'm telling you that he doesn't have a right to.
Yes, you do.
The mayor that way. Well, you can dispute that. That's fine.
Next council meeting, I'll be there. That's in person, and I'll curse you out in person. Let me see you throw me out.
Okay, are we up on?
What do you have to say about that, Captain? Is that illegal to be able to curse in a public meeting?
Terry?
We still, it's 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
Captain, is that illegal to be cursing at a public meeting in a public building? The First Amendment protects you on public property. Correct? There's no law against cursing in New Jersey. Crickets. So when people oppose what you say, you don't like it, so then you either hang up on them or you mute them. You guys are fascists and pinko commies.
Your 3 minutes is up.
Of course it is.
Thank you. Next person, please.
Next up, Greg McClendon. I know you've been waiting. Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Sure, Greg McClendon, 433 River Road, Highland Park. I am lost for words at the disrespect that I'm hearing from all fronts. It seems to me like a mutiny against the Highland Park Police Department, the Highland Park government, local government. I personally, and regardless of what others, they have their own opinion, I think the Highland Park Police Department is doing a tremendous job. I've seen great strides. I've lived in this town pretty much all of my life. I was out of town for a bit to raise my children, but I've returned and I've seen great strides. I've seen in the past year and a half, the police department make also, again, as far as you look at the data on police use of force, things of such, I can attest to many of the changes. I sit in on a lot of the meetings. I meet almost weekly with the chief and captain. And I as an African American, I can kind of speak for their efforts. Now, what has transpired over the years, we can all agree that it was not a good scene in Highland Park. There are many people now still going around Highland Park, not realizing that we've become a very community-friendly, policing-friendly police department, very approachable. Any issues you have, and this is for all those that are coming. I don't know who the new group is, but it really hits a nerve, because all this data you're speaking of, if you were on a day-to-day, do a drive along with these police officers. You can go down to headquarters, talk to chief or captain, and ask for a ride along and see what they're dealing with when it comes to use of unnecessary force. These guys and gals, these law enforcement professionals, want to go home at the end of their shift. They work as we all work as professionals. I would like to think I do good in what I do as a professional. And I think that the police department is making, again, strides in doing the right thing. Now, to ride them when they're in the process of transition, I think it's just unfair. I think the grouping that probably meets outside of these meetings to come in and storm the meetings with this nonsense. I can say it because I'm not a councilman. I'm not paid on the law enforcement in here in Highland Park. And I will say this gentleman, Macropolis, that's being so rude to our mayor, to our police department. I was there, so I hope you have me on tape. And I did kind of witness the incident, and I saw you being the aggressor. And I watched two of our patrol officers walk you home. You failed to say that. They walked you from the high school all the way down to Fox Road. And I think that's where you live, in that area. And I watched them because my car was parked in the vicinity. So I was able to witness that. And if it were me, and I said this to them, and I'll say it on the record, I would have put you in a nice golden pair of handcuffs and took you in with disorderly conduct and inciting a riot, because just your actions could have caused a disaster. Okay,
Mr. McClendon, you're at 3 minutes.
Okay, let me get this last piece in with this other gentleman, Mr. Mike Rowland. I find you disrespectful, and I would hope that you come down to our next meeting, and I would hope you would curse and all those things. Now, the captain can't do anything, the mayor can't do anything. I'll tell you this, I think it's best for you to stay where you are, continue to hide behind the keyboard or whatever, the Zoom, but you're disrespectful, and that type of behavior is not wanted in Highland Park, and it won't be tolerated from any member of our borough. I just want you to know that, because we don't know where you're from. You won't give your address or your name. All right? That's my piece. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else, Terry?
Yeah, we have a few hands. Next up is Matthew Hirsch. Name and address, please.
Hey everyone! Thank you so much for hearing so many people out. And Mayor, I'm sorry for the words that were said to you by a previous speaker. I just wanted to, where do I start? I just wanted to just raise my concern. I wanted to echo Lucinda Holt's comments regarding the Equity Commission. She was chair. I'm a member of the Equity Commission, and she was our chair for a time. And I wanted to just, express my concern about, absorbing that under the aegis of the HRC, as well as the Immigration Commission. And let me just explain why. I mean, I think that there is, I think the way the restructuring looks on the agenda as it's proposed makes some sense from an administrative standpoint, but there is still a lot of work to be done by the Equity Commission and the Immigration Commission. And I mean, if you just look at the founding resolution of the Immigration Commission, for example, there are a couple of big ticket items that were not, that haven't come to pass. And I'm not trying to assign blame, but you had looked at an independent, non-government, nonprofit organization to help provide vital resources for immigrant and refugee communities in Highland Park, including citizenship services, English classes, and legal guidance. the council had also resolved to adopt clear, transparent protocols for the certification of U visas for undocumented immigrant community members who have been witness to or victims of serious crimes. And I think under new police leadership, there's a real opportunity to do that work. So I think that, you know, there is a lot of work that the Immigration Commission can do. When it comes to the Equity Commission, you know, I feel that, you know, there was a lot of energy behind our formation. We never really were able to get the ball rolling for a lot of reasons, reasons that have already been stated, but then, you know, it's a volunteer committee. So, you know, there was kind of revolving leadership. But I think that the power of the Equity Commission has yet to be fully realized. Regardless if it's truly independent or not, I think it serves an important purpose on its own to review things like budgetary allocations. And I agree that, you know, when it comes to budgeting, you know, I agree that, you know, 11th hour budgeting is a real dangerous proposition. But I think that even going into this with a fully formed Equity Commission, for example, you can go into the budget cycle, you know, with the understanding that, you know, policing, you know, if we viewing policing like healthcare, where we're finally understanding that, you know, spending a certain amount of money to stay healthy is going to be way more effective than going to a doctor when you're sick. The same thing with our budgetary priorities. If we spend money on building healthy—
You're at the 3-minute mark, I'm sorry.
Okay, one more sentence. If we spend money on building healthy communities, it will be more effective than calling the police every time something goes wrong. So that's, I think, a really important kind of lens through which to enter your budgeting talks, and you know, hopefully there is a process into November to address this. So thank you for your time.
Okay, we have time for one more speaker at 3 minutes.
Okay, I'm going to call on Anna Haley. Again, state name and address, please.
Sure, thank you. This is Anna Haley. It's 135 North 5th Avenue. I wanted to shout out support again for Sonia and Lucinda and Monique's comments earlier in the meeting. I had a few comments and questions, but with the questions, I would like them answered at the end of my full comments, not during. On reporting, so a couple of you reported numbers. I think it was Captain Corbello and the mayor tonight claiming a reduction in use of force over, I think, a 4-year period, I believe from 2016 to 2019. And I want to make comments about that because I don't think that you all have posted anything on the website. And I bridle that at a meeting when you could anticipate there was going to be pushback from the community around policing issues. That is when handily you have data available. If I'm wrong and it's on the website, I welcome being corrected. You also did a few funny things when you reported that. It sounded like you were taking multi-year averages that might in fact conceal a different trend, like in a year-by-year trend than you're suggesting. If I'm wrong, I'd welcome that correction. You also didn't break those new numbers down by race. There could be a completely different pattern for folks of color in use of force than white folks, even if the numbers are going down. And I'm also assuming, so I feel like this is a good example if you want to understand why people are being so inconvenient to you and so impatient. This is a minor example, but it's an example. On analyzing the data, you've mentioned the Rutgers Center on Policing and that you're trying to get to work with them. You suggested that they closed up shop once the pandemic hit, but you know what? I work at Rutgers and no faculty, no researchers have stopped working, especially if they work on secondary data. So I would welcome clarification and I will seek that from the COPS Center. That's their acronym, actually, is COPS Center for everyone who's listening. I will seek clarification with them about what that process has been and why they might have shut down when all of Rutgers has remained diligently open this whole time. And I'm fearing we're having a DeLacy contract repeat where the council has the appearance of having unilaterally selected an entity to conduct this really important analysis without any public input or possibly without any consideration of other firms. I want to know about that. I looked quickly at the websites. While the COPS Center, again, that's their acronym, does appear to have an ongoing project with the Princeton Police Department that has somewhat similar data analysis, I can't find in their very considerable portfolio of research any other relevant research in terms of examining racial bias in policing. I find it a striking choice when there are many, many options in the greater tri-state New York area for this kind of work. So I would love to know, again, after I'm done, why that choice was made. And then the scope of work.
3 minutes already.
Okay, the scope of work.
And also, Anna, just hang on 1 second. I need a motion and a vote from the council to extend the meeting beyond 10 p.m.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Anna, please continue.
Why was it 3? That's by my surprise.
Oh, okay. So, could you had 3 questions, I believe, correct?
The questions were about just kind of what feels like a pretty gamey way to suddenly present data that you've been sitting on for 4 years at a meeting that you were expected to, I imagine, to have some contestation and data presentation that was really misleading potentially. And then also the selection of the COP Center. This is the first time I've heard about it. Maybe I've missed some publicity, but I want to know why that center. And yeah, actually Mike Rowland was right.
So hang on, let's do one question at a time. So first of all, I just got the data today.
How is that possible? For ending the year 2019 and starting with 2016, how did you, the mayor, just get that data today?
I may have had it in the past.
Matter. How is that possible?
I'm not going to get into an argument with you. I got the information today, and that is the way I put the data together. It was 2016 through 2019 because that was what we had, and I could tell you that in 2020 they also gave me. We have 3 incidents so far. That's number 1. Number 2 is Captain Corbello. Are you still there?
I am.
Okay, could you tell us how we got to the Rutgers people? I believe they were recommended, but you can answer that question better than me.
Sure, they were recommended to us as somebody who. I would have to get back to you on that. I don't have that specifically on hand. And I just
by Lacey Davis and the rest of the members of the team that worked on it. Chief down in Trenton, New Jersey, someone from East Orange, New Jersey, John Jay College, because they do the similar work. And that's how come when I did the research, that was how they were recommended because they're right next door. Because we did look at John Jay College as well.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
Thank you. And Anna, just to touch on those stats, the 16, 17, and 18 and 19, it was just the way it was in our chart. We are working to put that out for everybody. There's nothing, we're not trying to hide anything here. It was just, we were looking at it from when we started in the beginning of 2019, comparing it to years prior to when we were not in charge of the police department.
I ask you guys to try to self-reflect on what this kind of approach, this casual, non-urgent, vague approach, and then this very simplistic approach to finding people to analyze the data better for you, the signal that this sends to your community. You are not taking this in any form seriously.
The last thing I want to say, Captain, we are working on getting the information onto a website, aren't we?
Yes, correct. We have prepared the documents to go out to the website, and we're just working on facilitating that. And that, hopefully is done very shortly.
Thank you. Okay, is there anyone else in the queue, Terry?
Well, I thought Anna was your last pick.
Oh, okay, thank you. Thank you. Right, it's after 10 o'clock. Okay. Does anybody need us to take a 5-minute recess?
I already took mine.
Okay, then if no one needs a recess, I'd like to go right into our work session.
I thought we extended the meeting for public comment, did we not?
You did.
We did. We extended it to 10 o'clock.
Oh, but there's like a whole bunch of hands here from people that didn't even speak before.
How do you see them?
Yeah.
The participants.
It's what I took as my instructions, and I apologize if I misunderstood the mayor, was that she was extending the meeting for public comment by an additional 20 minutes to 10 p.m., which is when we would normally end our meeting, so that we could at least get these work items taken care of before we had to leave.
Not only normally, but by ordinance. We're supposed to end it at 10. I wanted to give a few more people a chance to talk. All of us are easily reachable if anybody wants to get in touch with any of us. I know many of you have written me already, and we'll have further discussions on many of these items. Okay, work session. No formal action is taken during a work session, just so everybody knows. Stephanie, you're up first.
Yes, so I think I only have the 2 items, but
yes, you do.
The first one, we'll go with the easiest one first, is the draft that was recommended by Councilman Fine that came over to the Health and Human Service Standing Committee. I think this definitely falls in line with everything that we've been trying to do, and also with past resolutions that we have passed. It's the resolution condemning racism against Asians due to COVID-19. I don't know if everyone has seen it. And like many of you, I know Elsie has worked with the HP Chinese Association that's in town as well. They've been a great help to us during the pandemic as well. And you know, on the national level, COVID-19 has been called the Chinese virus and so forth and so on. So that's the resolution that I am proposing for us to put on the agenda for the next council meeting.
Does anyone on council have any questions for Councilwoman Kim Chohan on this? Okay, so Joan, let's make sure we put this on the agenda for the next council meeting.
Will do.
All right. And the other item that I have is the restructuring of the HRC. And you guys all heard all of the comments tonight. You know, I don't have a problem, and this whole conversation happened, as you guys know, we reorganized beginning of this year. So I guess the conversations were had before I even took this portfolio over. And when I actually took over the portfolio, and I actually never even met with the immigration task force, because from my understanding, they were okay. And they were willing to have the support of HRC and come under their umbrella. But equity had a different view on it. It was I've heard mixed feedback from it. And but when I did take over Equity Commission, there wasn't members there. And we met once, and I can't go on prior history, but you know, it was a new commission, and you know, the mayor, I remember when we were forming it, and you know, the night that she came out and told us that she was forming a commission to work with community policing, and you know, all the history behind it. But now I think with everything that's going on, we kind of need something with with, I think, more teeth, which is like a civilian review board. And did someone say something? Oh, sorry. A civilian review board and that's what I'm hoping maybe Equity could do with the support of HRC. It's not minimizing any of the work that they have done, but right now, because Equity Commission didn't have members when I arrived, it was kind of like it's dead now.
Radical version of what the Equity Commission could be.
Can somebody?
Apologies, I forgot. Anna, I was supposed to mute you after you finished.
Oh my God.
I apologize. That was my error.
Thanks for sharing.
I'm like,
apology. I just realized.
Wait, did someone say something?
Yeah, I didn't. I was I'm a little out of it. Sorry about that.
Yeah. So, there weren't members on the commission. So to, keep their mission alive and keep their work going, there was discussions of bringing them under HRC, and HRC would support. And there were also in the past, there were overlapping efforts from both commissions, from my understanding. Now, from that time, from when I've, heard that the commission was going to go under HRC, and members of the public, some who are here tonight, have said that, well, I applied to be on Equity Commission and I wasn't, it didn't go anywhere. And I know for some time, because we were talking about, moving the commission under HRC, that there weren't appointments going on, and then appointments had lagged for some time. So what I did was go back for almost a year in my emails to see because when I don't know if they even know the procedure, that when you fill out these volunteer forms and it goes to the clerk, it also goes to council as a whole, regardless whether it applies to my portfolio or not. And I do have like a handful of applications that apply just for Equity Commission. So right now, I've heard the residents, we've heard you loud and clear, but what I don't want to happen is what happened before, what happened, last year, where, we had this commission that was formed, and then, it is challenging. Like I understand, and I know people just want to throw their hands up in the air when, sometimes stuff doesn't go their way. Trust me, like if I can tell you how many times I walked out of an in-person council meeting and, we all have disagreements with each other, but, we're still showing up. I didn't resign, although sometimes I want to, but I didn't resign from, serving you guys. And I just don't want that to happen again. And I know with so many members on HRC that there's an outreach in the community that could find, activists, if you want to say, that will work hard on these issues, and that, like I said tonight, in November, you guys, or 2 months before November, you come back around and say, hey, did you guys start looking at that budget, on the transfers, on the promises that you guys made? Because it's just so many things going on daily and day to day that we just have to address, that I need you guys to focus on that. And also with, when speaking with other towns, and, I think we all here can say, I think someone has said, to recognize there is a problem with our police force. And I think we have said that before. I don't know, that there is issues in our police force. And I know all of us can sit here and say, depending on, you know, many different races, age and everything, that when you say, oh yeah, I'm from Highland Park, that, oh, you're police, you know, it's oh, I got my first ticket in Highland Park, you know, that was the, you know, that was the image, that's the image and the persona of Highland Park Police Department. And while they're in this transitioning stage, that we can try to give them a chance to, you know, prove themselves. And if there are racist police in our police department, and it is, you know, it's known to us, that we will, you know, make sure they're held accountable to, you know, the fullest extent of the law. You know, no one here is trying to protect, you know, racist and bad police here. That's never, I don't think any of us even wanted, you know, do that. But, and so when I think of, in my head, I think of a civilian review board, and who, you know, a lot of you don't trust us, don't trust the mayor. You know, you guys, I don't know if we could put that they're elected. You know, if they can be elected to those positions, that's something totally different, but that's, you know, a little bit further ahead. But I think, you know, I've heard the residents, we can go back to that stack that I have and to the resident stacks here. Listen, if you truly want to get involved and you truly are committed, that you will at least give it 365 days to try to revamp the commission and keep it going, and that you will work with the borough. Now, I heard other people tonight also say, you know, we've asked for things and certain things weren't met. If promises were made to you and, you know, it didn't fall through, then, you know, actually, I work in corporate America. If it's not in writing, it never happened. So these promises that were made, you guys gotta get that stuff in writing so you can follow up and say, hey, you guys promised us you were gonna give us benchmarks, you were gonna do this and that, and you didn't do it. So now what are you gonna do now? And those are the certain things that I'm looking for this commission to do as your liaison. I'm also looking, you know, when these excessive force reports come out, I'm like, you guys should be reviewing those reports as well, not just the captain, not just the chief. That's what I'm looking for this commission to do. This commission has to be really dedicated. It's gonna be some long nights. It's gonna be some nights that you guys probably won't even agree with me and say, oh, I'm just siding with the mayor. There you go, siding with the mayor again. So that's going to happen. And I know it. I already feel it from tonight. But if you guys are dedicated and really want to make the change, then let's do it. Then we can keep the Equity Commission a standalone commission and not absorb them under HRC. Yeah, Matt, I saw you there.
Okay.
Go ahead, Matt.
No, I didn't want to cut you off, Stephanie. I just wanted to go next, if that was okay.
Oh yeah, I lost my train of thought.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, and you know, I appreciate everything you said, Stephanie, but we need to get the council to know what, you know, they want to do in terms of all of this, so that you can move forward in the direction your co-council people.
Yeah, so tonight, as I put that on the agenda to
Right.
absorb them under HRC, after saying all of that, I think now, and after listening to the public, if I can, so action steps summary, we get, I'm sure there will be an influx of applications to sign up for the Equity Commission, as it was almost a year ago. We review those applicants and have them, it'll be a standalone committee, have them vote on whether they want to go under HRC or not. I think the immigration task force last year, they voted, right? They voted already to go under HRC. So, and one thing that I will do a part of this commission. So usually when, I don't know how other council members do it, but for me, I usually, when a volunteer comes in from one of my commissions, I normally send it over to the chair to, you know, briefly discuss it with them, and then it goes back to the mayor. And I'm usually like not involved. I briefly look over their resume, their qualifications, but this part, it will be, I want to make sure we have a diverse commission. You know, I want some attorneys on there that will go with a resident and look at a, you know, police video or body cam with them. You know, it's a whole, like, the first meeting is going to be extremely long on different goals that we want to set for this year. So I'm saying what I'm proposing now is to keep it as a single commission with us properly, I guess, I don't know, staffing the commission.
So Matt, you wanted to talk?
Yeah, I just wanted to I was on those commissions prior to Stephanie, and I just wanted to point out a couple of things. Number one, the Immigrant and Refugee Committee voted unanimously to join the HRC. They voted unanimously to do it because they thought that there were other people on the HRC who were interested in immigration issues. And as a result, they would have a greater mass of people to carry out the work of the Immigrant and Refugee Committee. The way that it was structured is that it's a standing committee of the HRC, and the Immigrant and Refugee Committee voted unanimously to do that. And so I think that makes sense. I think that actually for the Equity Commission, we should follow the same policy. And the reason why that didn't happen is that there weren't enough members of the Equity Commission still left in order to make that happen. There was a bit of a, at the time, and I understand that that's probably changed. At the time, there was people who wanted to go to the HRC and people who did not. I don't think that's the case now. I think the biggest issue with the Equity Commission right now is that we have not filled the vacancies. And I think that those vacancies have to be filled. And as soon as those vacancies are filled, we should have the Equity Commission vote whether they want to go to the HRC or whether they want to remain as a standalone commission. And I think there is incredible value perhaps in going to the HRC. Ashton Burrell is an incredible leader and a statewide figure, and the structure of this is after the statewide Human Relations Commission that he chairs. But that's a decision that I think that the Equity Commission can make. The biggest issue we have right now is the members of the Equity Commission are not there. All of the members who were on have decided to do other things. And I understand that it's not an easy thing to do. And they may have left in part because of me, but the point is that I think what we need to do is staff the Equity Commission with the people that have had their applications in for quite some time, and then allow them to vote on whether they want to become part of the HRC or whether they want to remain an independent commission. And I think that that to me seems the best strategy forward. We may have a full committee of Equity Commission members, and they may decide that they want to go to the HRC, but I'm more than comfortable to let them at this time make that decision. But the most important thing is to get it staffed up to numbers that can make that vote according to the bylaws of the HRC or the structure that we set out at the very beginning. I don't think that there's a difference in the level of independence. I think the HRC and the HPEC can be incredibly independent of the borough as volunteer commissions. I think they can have their voices heard and will have their voices heard. But in terms of the structure, I would agree with Stephanie that I think that what we ought to be doing is getting the HPEC to have a full complement of members and allow them the decision of whether to go to the HRC, like the Immigrant and Refugee Committee voted to do, or not. So that's my 2 cents.
So Stephanie, you have a list of 7 people, I think you said?
Yeah, I have, the standing committee went through every application and but I don't wanna, maybe it was an oversight with me searching back through my emails. You know, if someone applied there, just shoot me an email and say, hey, do you have me in your pile to follow up on? Because I will be going down the list and reaching out to you, like, give me like the next Monday or so, before next Monday.
Well, maybe you can ask Carrie to post something on the borough's Facebook page.
Yeah, but these are for people that may have already applied and we just, I don't know what happened.
Okay.
But if the new people do want to apply, then they are more than welcome.
Okay, and then you and I can sit down and go through the applications that you have and figure out our next steps. But I want to make sure the rest of the council, has a say in all of this as well. Does anybody have anything they want to add to this discussion? Elsie, you're muted.
No, I have nothing to add at this time.
Oh, okay. Phil, did you? No. Josh?
Not at this time.
Okay. So then, Stephanie, why don't you and I talk next? And you'll talk to Ashton as well. It looks like at this point, we've got the Immigrant and Refugee Task Force there, Commission there, and they're supposed to be starting a anti-Semitism subcommittee as well, correct?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Okay. So let's just finalize all of that when you and I sit down and talk.
So when people apply, they're putting HRC parentheses, immigration parentheses, anti-Semitism. Like, is that
right? But what I think I'm hearing from you and Matt is you want to keep the Equity Commission separate.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So
let them decide.
So there are some people who wanted to be on Equity Commission, but because we were going to be rolling them into HRC, they were appointed to HRC. We need to take them off there and put them back on Equity.
Mayor,
Joan and I can help you with that. Matt, did you want to say something?
I think this is I don't know that the people who were in the hopper to be on the Equity Commission were ever actually appointed to the HRC. I think we were waiting on those appointments. I think that we need to check with the clerk, but I think there is a whole host of people who applied to the Equity Commission or the HRC that have not been acted on.
Because we were holding on this.
I'm not sure why, but because of that, they haven't. So.
All right, so let's check on that. Stephanie, if you don't mind checking with Joan on that to make sure.
Yeah, as to what, who's been appointed and who.
Was there anyone appointed to HRC, though they wanted to be on Equity?
Okay.
Okay, and then you and I can talk tomorrow to catch up on who you have, how you want to go forward and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, goals. Anybody have anything they need to add to their goals?
Terry, are we doing the Pride Month flag raising? I saw your emails going back and forth.
I'm in the mag on that one, but yes, my understanding is Harry's got something in the work. I think there was an email to you and me on that. Just
okay, yeah. All right.
He's connecting with the Pride Center, and we're coordinating a socially distant event of some sort, I'm sure.
Yeah. Okay.
It's 10:30.
Anybody else on goals? Okay, seeing nothing more. May I have a motion not to have the executive session? I think I have to do a motion because it's on here.
Motion to table, I guess, Lucille.
Yes.
Motion to table.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. In that case, may I have a motion to adjourn the meeting till our next meeting, June 23rd?
So moved.
To adjourn.
Second.
Okay. Good evening, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.